And good afternoon again, everyone. Here we are back for session 2, and I'm bringing in a couple of new commentators for you, and enjoy your croquet. You're shortly going to be joined by Stu Smith.
Well, hello there. So we're We're back on with Nabil and Higgins, so into game 2, with Nabil taking game 1. A little bit later on the commentary, trying to find myself a commentary partner, but I cannot find Keith Aitken anywhere. He's gone and hid from me today. So as we can see, Higgins took hoop 1, and Nabil has put 2 really nice balls in, red and yellow, in at 2. It doesn't look from this angle that you can get a mallet on red, so it's an interesting choice selection that Higgins has got to take from here. It does look like she's aiming to move both, which is obviously a good result with black where it is, in a hoop winning position if she does clear them both. That's a lovely shot, lovely shot. Opens them up, splits away, leaves black now runnable. And Gabrielle's got a lovely stroke. That's one of them that hits on the cast. So Nabil's job is just to move black away and keeping red close by. I didn't quite get enough of black. Makes this soup tempting for Gabrielle. I mean, the option here is to push black forward, but with a good clearance from yellow. Could end up just sort of a position and clearance game for the next few rotations, but if she fancies it, it's almost a free shot at the hoop here, because there's obviously no pressure from the opponent's ball. That's unlucky. It's a confident sort of hoop stroke. Just unlucky not to run it there. Hello, Sue.
You're rich, aren't you?
I'm rich. I don't think we'll go as far as that, Sue. That was Sue Lightbody referring to me going out today and finding the value of a coin that was discovered in my garden. It wasn't quite as expensive as I was hoping, but it was still a nice find. So, as I expected there, a nice clean clearance from Nabil. Yeah, Gabrielle's looked to hide that blue from the yellow. It's hard to tell from this angle if she has. Gabrielle's reaction suggests that yellow might still be able to see the blue. And with red just coming in would evidently suggest that she's happy that yellow can see blue. Gabrielle just looking for a nice, relatively tight position, just get black involved. Plus a little bit of extra sort of difficulty with this clearance on blue, with red ending so close to it, behind it, but should be able to cut this away. Yeah, nice. Good shot, nice distance. So red looks nicely runnable from here, so whether Gabrielle's going to aim for red, I would have thought at this point. I think she may have topped that just a little. Unfortunate. So a customary hoop check from the Egyptian players. Very composed style. Because all the Egyptians play with a very, very similar style, very relaxed, and it's all sort of a focused approach. And this is for one hoop each. Yes, worked his way through. So that's 1-1, with Nabil having taken game 1. So these are the key shots in most games, that sort of critical positional shot. It's a very strong advantage if you've got the positional sort of abilities of lots of Gabriel, with being quite a strong AC player. And that positioning is a big part of their game, that sort of touch. And that looks like it may have ended a bit short after that, but it's quite hard to tell. It might be jawsable from here. Gabriel looking to put the second ball in, which is the ideal shot. Preferably not blocking the yellow, just to give her an option to move the yellow if she wishes to. And we'll just have a double check there to see if she's confident that black can run or not. And we'll soon see her opinion by whether she lines up for the clearance here. Sort of suggests she's happy that it's not necessarily runnable. Oh, she nearly helped it along there. So Gabrielle looking to see if she feels she can jaws that back. This is one of those shots where you decide, oh, so what do I do? Do I have a go at jaws in it? Do I move the red as the ultimate danger, being so close by, leaving a potential hoop shot with yellow, or do I move yellow, although you can't move yellow too far, with blue where it is, I'd like to hit it on the return. So she's opted for the closer ball clearance. It does pave way for a potential hoop shot with yellow, but black may have done a blocking job, but it's very, very difficult to see from here, it really is. But it definitely looks like we're lining up for the hoop, judging by the head movement. Again, that real steadying her body, steadying the stance. It was a hoop shot once. Unfortunately, these hoops don't always take. So, Gabrielle for 2-1. Again, a completely different style. So, Gabrielle's playing on the cast. It's quite a rapid cast. If you ever stand behind the cast, you see just how straight she keeps that mallet. Okay, I finally have a co-commentator. It happens to be wifey, so I have to behave myself. So, welcome Louise.
Thank you.
How are you enjoying your tournament so far?
Not too bad so far, a little bit nerve-wracking, but everything's good. Alison's just told me to come over here and join you on the commentary.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll test your extensive knowledge of croquet as well.
I wouldn't, but
So, Gabrielle Higgins has just taken hoop 3 for 2-1. Unfortunately, didn't get too far through the hoop, so it's always nice to win hoops in pairs. So, with a good hoop run, and find yourself sort of beyond halfway, preferably towards the next hoop, especially when you're playing from odd to even hoops. Didn't quite gain that advantage. So The bill is a bit far back, probably sort of originally probably 6 yards back as it looks from here. But
Might be slightly hampered.
well, the black's closed in now and perhaps hampers the backswing. So the only downfall with that is with a lovely yellow as it looks from here. The clearance from red to black is very, very straightforward. And able to create a lot of distance there. So Higgins' job here is to really put the pressure on that yellow. Unfortunately, she was hampered herself.
Hindered on their swing.
She was, yes. So we have two choices here. I mean, what would you do, Louise? Would you sort of look to sort of snuggle up to black? Or would you just concentrate on distance?
I'd concentrate on distance if it was my shot.
Okay. Which is the shot of choice. I mean, you could have obviously hampered that. There is the possibility if you get that little snuggle shot wrong, although you're sort of guaranteed the hoop, it does give your opponent the chance to sort of flick off it towards 5 and almost concede the hoop and gain advantage at 5. So creating the distance takes that possibility away. But it does give your opponent a chance to move you, even though it's from a distance.
Narrowly missed.
Yeah, narrowly missed from there, unfortunately. I think she just about stayed on side as well. So she went off the right side of the peg as far as Gabrielle's concerned. So she's Nabil for 2 hoops apiece.
2-1. Nicely done.
So you got yourself on the show lawn today. You're looking forward to being on telly, on the live stream?
Not particularly, if I'm totally honest, but we all have to go on there at some point.
Something to look back on in a few months, few years' time, and say, look, I am famous.
For what might be interesting, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Just hoping that the rain holds off a little bit.
So Blue's approach to the hoop is a little bit wide, but I still think Blue is runnable from that position. That's a nice red, because now the reds would probably, if you was tempted to take the hoop with the Blue, that red's position now puts that doubt in your mind,
yes.
And you're probably more inclined to clear the red now than go for the hoop. But again, with the good black in, Gabrielle's strong now, because again the clearance on red here is quite a straightforward clearance. So with a good black, as it's happened, Gabrielle's very much in control of this hoop as we stand. So what would you do from here? Are you firing at Blue? Or are you clearing the black?
I think I'd be firing at Blue.
Yes.
I think that's what she's going to do.
I think realistically she has to move. So I don't think she's gaining anything from, unless she puts the ball in very, very tight to the hoop. She's not gaining anything by doing anything other than looking to shift Blue or black.
Yes.
Asking for a bit of a relief over there. The net is quite tight to that boundary as well. I think she might have been in a little hole there. She's asked if she can just sort of shift it out of the hole on the boundary. So it's hard to tell whether this is blue or black from our angle, but that's definitely a clearance attempt here. It was blue, and a great shot.
Yep.
A great shot. So with a clearance as good as that, centre ball pretty much, she's now left yellow very, very close by and creating a good bit of distance with the blue. So now Higgins is now got to come back and move red.
Oh, well, she got it.
Yeah, another grey stripe. At least the rain's hanging off at the minute. I mean, it's a little bit windy here, as you can tell by the flags. But it's,
They've had some showers this morning, I think.
Yeah, had some this morning. I mean, obviously we've turned up late today because you had a bye this morning.
They've been out in Worthing.
We've been out in Worthing. So I would bank on this being a clearance on the black. No.
Oh, hoop attempt.
Was a hoop attempt. Fair play. They're nice confidence that you're going for the hoop from there. It's nice to see.
Yes. It wasn't far off either.
No. He does leave Gabrielle.
This lets her back in, I think.
Yeah.
Good shot here and down to 6.
Just give Gabrielle a relatively straightforward hoop here. And like you say, right in front, well, pretty much in front, so a good chance of getting down the line. Opted for just securing the hoop, making sure the hoop was run. Which can be wise with quadways. Sometimes if you ask a bit too much of them, they refuse you. So the only downfall with that particular shot is she's left black so close to red, so a good yellow, as we've just seen, is going to require Higgins to clear, I think, with blue here, because red has control.
Red has
of
full
black.
control of black here.
Control of black up there. I don't know whether sort of snuggling up is an Egyptian style. No benefit from launching the black down this end up into the north boundary, but she's only going to move it closer to yellow. But she does have full control of that black if she wishes. I think Gabrielle's recognised that and realised that the chance of clearance here is definitely the blue. Travelling well. That's unfortunate.
She might not be able to see it with black either. It might be the other issue.
Yeah, that's a fair point. You can't see from here whether that peg's actually in the way or not, but it does look like she's not opting to snuggle, so
just another good ball in.
Just another good ball in. So I think that answered our question whether the sort of snuggle shot is the Egyptian style. But you also may be correct, judging by the stance, whether actually black can see yellow anyway, which would...
Let's hope she can see the hoop. She's just wide.
She's just gone for halfway, I'd have thought, for that shot. So that, again, that's why she didn't bother snuggling. Shows what we know. Suggests that the black couldn't see the yellow anyway. As I said yesterday morning, we could do with runners to go around and tell you what you can and can't see, because it's quite difficult.
It is from this angle, it's quite hard.
Okay, so that's the bail for three apiece.
And with all of the Egyptians I've noted, they've managed to stay perfectly still.
They've just got a beautiful style, really. I mean, it's so considered, you know, that they make sure their body's still perfectly rigid, and they're never in a hurry to take the shot. They plant the mallet, but they don't take that backswing until they're absolutely ready. So Gabrielle's offside there has been sent to the naughty corner.
Nicely done. Beautiful
shot. Again, that sort of AC touch player, beautiful positional shot. It's exactly what he needs. He puts all the pressure on. So.
We might be in the firing line here.
But we have got the same situation here where black potentially has control of yellow. I know they're both off the lawn, but it's quite a straightforward block for Gabrielle there. I want to send my co-commentator. Could you please go and tell me if that blue runs? Go on, get your steps in. I've got the thumbs up to suggest the blue still will run past that.
Blue's still got a clear shot of the hoop.
So
should it choose to?
Higgins is immediately looking at that sort of potential blocking, just to. I mean, the clearance on blue isn't particularly easy without actually hitting red and end up clearing both. It's a gentle block shot. She's opted not to go towards the yellow. She's opted to drop the ball, blocking in between, and that looks to have done the job.
That looks good.
Gabrielle just signalled to us she fumbled. She got that. Let that get a little bit close. So there's Nabil cannot see the blue. Whether she's going to try to just fall clear out here, looks possible.
I think that was at the hoop.
I'm not 100% sure. I don't think she connected properly with that one. I think she may have missed it that one slightly. And that can happen if you're not 100% sure what shot you should be taking here. You can find you'll make that error.
That was a beautiful hoop there.
Yes.
I'll see you later.
Yes, we're moving off.
Thank you very much for your help.
You're welcome.
For a short time. So I'm now swapping you out, and we'll maybe see you a bit later with your best mate, Keith, if I can find him. Sorry, I couldn't find him.
Have fun.
So I'm now introducing Chris Clark and Debbie Davidoff from the USA, and they are going to come and chat to you and watch the game.
Thanks very much, Alison. Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you, even if it is overcast and a little chilly.
It certainly is. I've got 4 layers on today.
And you're talking to a Florida girl, so I've probably got 10 layers on.
So quite an interesting match. Thanks very much to Louise and Stu for previous commentary, but I think this is really quite fascinating. We've got the very graceful Maram Nabil, lovely, elegant player from Egypt, against Gabrielle Higgins, who was runner-up in the Women's AC Worlds in January in Christchurch. So not a very experienced GC player against a very experienced one, and I'm expecting quite a competitive match, despite the fact that game 1 was an absolute destruction. 7-2 to Maram. I had a quick chat with Gabrielle between games while Maram was having a bathroom break, and Gabrielle said she'd played really badly and had a little bit of bad luck as well, and she was expecting to come back strongly and become more competitive this game. Have you had a chance to watch either of these players yet?
Well, I actually was behind the camera on their first game. So I was filming them over there. I'm the jack of all trades today. And it was really fun for me to watch. I thought Maram was just spot on. I mean, it's hard when you go up against somebody who's just on with every shot.
There are what I regard as 3 top Egyptian players, and I have Sohar as the best. And then on ranking, Amani's number 2 and Maram's number 3. But I think there's not a lot to choose between those 2 players, and Maram's probably a little bit more experienced. So Amani's looked quite strong so far, and Maram did drop a game early on in the event. But I do rate Maram quite highly. So that's in the jaws from black, and looks quite strong, that. I'm not sure red's got an easy clearance on that. May quite likely give up. So Gabrielle's done quite well to get back into the match, having lost 7-2. Came in straight away, took position with blue, game 2, ran it turn 5, went 2-0 up at hoop 2. Sorry, didn't. Has been trading hoops. Won 1-3-5, and has now won 7. So they've just been exchanging hoops throughout the game, and this is hopefully for Gabrielle going to be the first 2-point lead she gets when she runs hoop 8. Yellow's just played in a slightly strange position. It's not really jumping position, that, for yellow. And black can just run the hoop, so Gabrielle clearly believes red can get black out of the hoop, so she's trying to block that red at black shot, but this is tough. I mean, this is the front of the drawers, I think. So if you hit it on the left hand side, you risk peeling it, and then black would get first play to 9 as well.
Would you have put blue there?
I would have put blue in front and not be too worried about getting the block here. As we said, that shot was really tough to get black out.
Yeah.
And if it moved black, I don't think it was going to move black very far. So blue in front looked better to me. Interestingly, Gabrielle's got 2 choices there running the hoop with black. She could just do what she's done and just run it, or she could have sort of tapped it through half the distance and tried to leave blue a rush to hoop 9. Given how much control she had there, I would have been tempted to leave that rush.
Except yellow was there, and yellow had the chance to move blue out of position.
But then yellow doesn't take position at 9, and blue gets first position. So you can't do both things.
Right.
Now Gabrielle's saying, actually, rather than playing the rush, I'm going to trust my shooting. I'm going to leave a 14-yarder black at yellow, and I'm hoping that that's going to be my best chance rather than the rush. And for most people, that's probably the right option, but these are top AC players, and if you give yourself a good rush, they're quite good at that shot. And what I always coach people, if you're first to play to a hoop, you never rush partner there. You just play into position.
Yes.
But if you're second to play there, the rush is a valid tactic. It's a little bit short on this red ball. So black at yellow's the shot. And how have you found the lawns playing?
Well, I played in Eastbourne in the qualifier, and then I came over here and I practiced. I thought every place I've loved the lawns. Here they're faster. I think they're more true. Eastbourne has a lot of break.
Yep, you're right.
It was very difficult.
That's definitely correct.
Yeah, it was very difficult. And of course, the big difference is the hoops here. You know, we've got the quadway hoops here, which we didn't have over in Eastbourne.
And have you played with quadways before?
Yes.
And you think they make a difference?
You know, it may actually be a mental difference for a lot of people. I think a lot of people who don't play them come into them and think, oh my goodness, I've got these really tight, hard hoops. These may be tight and hard because of the conditions, more so than just being a quadway hoop. Also, you've got to be really accurate when the hoops are set tight, no matter where you are.
Yeah, the actual hoop setting criteria for WCF events isn't actually that narrow. We would normally have them tighter for a British Open, for example. So they might get tighter as the event goes on, and they're allowed to tighten them during the knockout stage. But fundamentally, if you get straight in front of them, I don't think they're particularly difficult to run. The difference is when you're running at them at angles, then the ball bounces back and out.
Yes.
I think that's the main difference.
Well, and a lot of these girls, they want to hit these shots really hard to get down to the next wicket, which is crucial. And if you're not spot on, they're going to wobble or they're going to bounce.
Yeah, and where a ball might finish in the front of the jaws or in the jaws on a normal hoop, the Atkins tends to bounce it out a few feet. So you tend to find yourself not in front, you're at an angle, you can't run it, instead of being in the front of the jaws. So it does change the game a wee bit. But they're not particularly firm at the moment because of all that rain we had on Saturday, when it was deluge on Saturday.
I think they're wonderful. I think when I was here 2 days ago practicing, I thought the hoops were fabulous. I didn't have trouble running them. I thought they were nice and firm. I thought the lawns were great. It's a beautiful facility, and the people here are just incredible. So welcoming and warm, and the volunteers are working so hard for everybody to make this a great experience.
And I think we should highlight the fact that this is Southwick's, I think, 3rd World Championship in about 3 or 4 years. Came in, stepped in and held back-to-back open worlds when New Zealand weren't able to due to COVID. And this is running seamlessly. A fantastic manager, Mike Town, all the locals used to knowing what they have to do to set up a World Championship now.
Yes.
So yeah, great venue. The ground staff have done a really good job. I mentioned how much rain we'd had. The lawns are still running nicely, aren't they? They're not fast, but
they're not slow.
They're a nice smooth surface as well, isn't it? I guess you're used to very good quality lawns in America, even paced.
We have a lot of lawns that are maintained by golf course superintendents.
Yeah.
And they just tend to have these fabulous, like they have stemp meters of 11 and 12, and just beautiful surfaces and bent grass, and but you have to be able to play on every condition, on every lawn, and we all have the same condition.
Interesting position Gabrielle's got here. So she's 5'4" up. She can just nudge blue into the jaws, but she knows if she does that, she's going to offer red the jump shot. I think the logic is that we believe the Egyptian players are weaker at jump shots than the average non-Egyptian player, and it's largely because they're using the Irish grip. Quite difficult to get the wrist to bend as easily as a Solomon or a standard grip, and it is a gamble, this, obviously, giving red this bonus shot, but they're not just going to walk up to this and think, oh, I'm going to run this 6 times out of 10. This is going to be more like a 2 or 3 out of 10 from Maram, I think. Looks like she's... there we go, there the feet move forward and the mallet moves. And now, can she hit it hard enough to jump it on the full? Quite springy lawns here. She had just about enough height, but the direction wasn't right.
Have you seen any of the girls try to change their grip on their jumps?
Well, I mean, one of the things I should mention is Jenny will change her grip from a standard for very short range to a Solomon for, maybe 2.5 yards plus. And that's simply to get the power.
Yeah.
Bigger backswing. So Gabrielle just moving that black to the halfway point. I tend to like moving black a little bit further north there. One of the things I try and get players to think about is excuse me, which ball is going to be taking position and which ball is going to be clearing, and that's almost a decision that black is going to be clearing. So wherever red goes, black's probably going to clear it. If you wanted to go red takes position, black takes position, and then blue clears red, then it would be better to be a bit further north, so you're coming in more along the line of in front of the hoop instead of at 90 degrees to it. But as soon as your opponent's taken position like that, I'm encouraging black at red.
Yes. Let's see if she agrees.
And she isn't, she's taking position. And again, if she was going to take position with such a good red, I would have probably done it from a couple of yards further north, just to give you a better line in. This is just a positional shot trying to block blue. No, she's shooting. So clearly the cannon onto red isn't a worry. Black's far enough past it that she's not worried about the ricochet off into red. And that's what I'm trying to coach the players I work with. So first ball in, if the second ball goes in like that, I want the third ball to clear straight away. I don't want to suddenly find red 15 yards away after this clearance when I've turned down a 7 or 8 yard clearance turn before. She's gone in off there. She just
went in off.
And that's game.
Wow.
Game 2. So very good comeback from Gabrielle. Obviously lucky, but she did mention that Maram had a couple of lucky shots in that first game that allowed her to dominate.
That's one thing, you just never know what the luck's going to do.
Yeah.
And at any moment.
The players, I think, have just had a chat about whether they're going to break for lunch. So we might end up with a little break ourselves here.
Oh, well then I can ask you some questions.
Yeah.
See if they get started. So would you as a coach be telling Gabrielle, you've got the momentum on your side now, should you be taking a break?
Well, when I played golf croquet, I never had a break during a match. I just wanted to be fluent, and I found that as a match progressed I got better and better and better. So I didn't want to break at all. I didn't want a 10-minute break between games. Yeah, really, you're not meant to have more than 5 minutes. And the WCF regs, you can have a bathroom break, quick 5-minute break. Obviously, if you've got a particular health issue, so we do have people who are diabetic, they need to go and take some carbs on board, make sure their sugar levels are right. And obviously, if the weather picks up, we need to constantly make sure we're hydrated. But I wouldn't normally take a break in a golf croquet match.
Yeah.
AC, obviously, it could go on hours and hours and hours, but these best of threes shouldn't take more than about 3.5 hours, so you should be able to play them in one go.
I tend to agree with you because I find when you take a break, you lose your rhythm, you lose your pace, you lose your feel for the lawn. The lawn can actually change during that time as well. I'm a fan of just continuing to play. I can't tell if they've decided. I think it may just be a brief break.
Yeah. We'll
So
have to
let
see.
me ask you a question while we're on the break. So there's some amazing women players here, and this is a women's golf croquet championship. What do you think we can be doing to get more women to feel better about and being more competitive playing against the men?
Well, it's a good question. I was chatting earlier about the how croquet is developed in Egypt, and their main competition is an inter-club competition, and they play mixed doubles, same-sex singles, women v women, men v men, and I think they might also play a little bit of same-gender doubles as well. One of the good things about that is that it's the same number of men and women on each team. I think it's two men, 2 women on each team, and you get to play the mixed doubles. So you're playing against men in a mixed gender doubles match. So I think that's the starting point of getting them used to playing potentially at a higher level. And one of the things that Egypt has done really in the last probably 12-15 years is they've gone from the women not being allowed to play against the men in their Egyptian Open to now saying, no, we're going to allow you to have a qualifier, and the top 2 or 3 lady players are going to be allowed to play in the Egyptian Open. It's a big cultural change.
Yes.
And I think we need to applaud Egypt for what they've done. It used to be sort of the men really wouldn't want to play against a woman because it might, if they lost, it would feel, how should we put it, sort of embarrassing or culturally different. And now the change, as we move into a different time, we now see the women coming through, and they're stronger. Players like Sohar, Sohar, is she world number 12? Something like that?
Yeah.
Really, really good. So we should applaud Egypt from that perspective. Throughout the rest of the world, I think we generally do have a lot of open tournaments, don't we?
Yes.
And you go in and play in a normal tournament and you'll have men and women competing equally. And I think it's very positive. But equally, some people say, well, why should you bother having a woman-only tournament then? And I think some ladies feel more comfortable. And if you can get them playing more competitive croquet, even if it's we all start off as high handicappers, the key is we need to start people playing in tournaments. And all I want out of a player, whether it's a 16 handicapper, a 7 handicapper, a scratch or a minus player, is I want them to say, I want to get a bit better. I don't care how much, just get a little bit better. And I think it applies in life as well. If we try and get better at anything we're doing in life, we're becoming better human beings. And it's a really good thing to do at croquet. Just try and get a little bit better.
I agree with that. We work very hard. Cheryl Bromley and I, along with 2 other women, started this Women's Golf Croquet Academy in the United States. And our mission is to embolden women to feel tournament ready. It's not to say that women should just be playing other women, but there's something about when you're training with other women, women are nurturing and supportive and they really lift each other up. You can even see that in these tournaments. There's a lot of joy not on the field. You know, on the field everybody's a competitor, but there's a lot of joy when women get together with women, and when they're training for everybody to get better, they really lift each other up. And our hope is that as we help these women feel more and more comfortable on the croquet lawn, that they'll start walking into tournaments and feel more comfortable with everybody, not just women.
Exactly right. This is I think it's the 5th Women's GC Worlds I've attended, and I find that the camaraderie and the relaxed atmosphere and the chat is so much more relaxed and easy here than they might feel when there might be a quarter of women and 3/4 of men.
Yes.
And I think that's very positive. And I think these events are really important, and I've seen it both with the AC and the GC. When there's a specific event like this, you'll get 20 of the women will have targeted this, and they're going to say, either I want to try and play in it, or I want to get out of my block into the knockout, or I want to get a medal, or everyone's got a different target. I know I've been working with some of the ladies who made it through the qualifier, and they're thrilled to bits. Just to play in the event is great.
Oh, absolutely.
And they both turned up yesterday, and they both won both their matches.
Oh, yeah.
And how good is that to qualify and be on 2 out of 2 on day 1? Absolutely fantastic. And they're having a ball. But the improvement is really good.
Well, I think they also really become ambassadors for the sport, having such a great experience. And, you know, particularly with women, if you go and you do something well, you're going to ask your girlfriends to come do it with you.
Yeah.
So, you know, you go, have a good time, play in a qualifier. You know, one of the beautiful things about this is you're going to play with some people who are really good. So even if you're not winning, you're learning.
Absolutely.
You're learning great things from looking at these great swings, learning these strategies, just doing the try.
Yeah.
It's going to be something wonderful.
Yeah. I want to mention one of the ladies who made it through the qualifier, Liz Drury.
Drury, yes. I played her
Compton.
twice, yeah.
And she turned up to our Women's Open in end of May, early June, that sort of time. And she was a 6 handicap. And she was the highest handicap in the entire Women's Open. And she didn't think she had a chance, and she did really well. And she got a couple of handicap reductions, and then she went to Colchester and she came 2nd of 16. And she got some more handicap reductions, and then she went to qualifier, and she qualified. It's such a good story, and for everyone at home, there's going to be people who are 6 handicaps, 8 handicaps, 10 handicaps. This can be you.
That's right.
Just go out and put a little bit extra work in, set yourself some targets, and yeah, if it's just to get from 10 to 8 the next season, well, that's okay, that's a good target. But yeah, get a little bit better.
When I first started playing in the championship levels in tournaments, it's so intimidating when you come in and you're the lowest in the block and it's your first time in a championship flight. I would just tell myself, your goal is just to try to score 4 wickets against these people. They're so good. The goal doesn't have to be to win every game. But for me, if I could reach the goal of scoring 4, then I felt that I would have held my own against somebody who was really good. And what started happening is I would score 4, and then I would score 5, and then I would score 6. And by taking it in those little bits and not being so disappointed, but understanding that there was a challenge to learn from, I got better and better and better. I think not everybody's going to be the winner, but everybody can be a winner.
Yeah, I sort of do something a bit different to that. I do encourage people to try and win every game, because the tactics change. If you're actually just trying to be happy with getting 4 points or something, your opponent is often quite happy to let you have certain hoops in order to get first play to hoop 9 or first play to hoop, the odd hoops. They want to be in front of that. And I don't mind so much if I lose 7-1 or 7-2. I want to be playing the right shots all the time. And if you play the right shots and you just accept that you're going to get beaten heavily, eventually you'll get good enough at playing the right shots that the win will come. One of the things I mentioned in my last commentary stint was Kathy from Scotland was getting 2 foot straight in front of a hoop and running it by 3 yards.
Yeah.
And the odd ones. And I was saying, well, actually, I'd rather if she just tried to hit it 15 yards through the hoop and occasionally didn't run it. Because we've got to try and play the right shot. If we do the right things all the time, eventually we'll get better and good enough at doing them that it will reward us.
So that brings to mind another question. I think sometimes people do that because they fear that they're going to miss. So they take what would be categorized as the wrong shot, just the little shot through the hoop, and then sometimes even hurt themselves because they hamper themselves. So how do you counsel people to get rid of that fear?
It's sort of trying to instill teenage boy syndrome into them. So I do a lot of work over the years with teenage boys and the odd teenage girl. And one of the questions I set my groups at the start is I say, how often do you hit a 7-yard shot? And how often do you hit a 13-yard shot? I get them to write the answers down. And the boys answered, say, well, I hit a 7-yard shot 9 times out of 10. And I hit a 13-yard shot 7 times out of 10. And the girls come back and they say, I hit a 7-yard shot 4 times out of 10. I hit a 13-yard shot 1.5 times out of 10. And you send them out on the lawns and they all hit them about the same. And the boys always overestimate how often they hit them.
Yeah.
And the girls always underestimate. And it's almost that transition into the fear of failure syndrome as well. The boys don't care. The boys just want to hit a good shot and look flash. They want to show off. They've got testosterone pumping through their veins and they want to prove that they're just better than everybody else. Whereas the girls are going, I'm not quite as confident. And hopefully that type of exercise and showing, it does 2 things. It tries to bring the boys down a peg to actually say, no, you don't hit it that often, therefore you should be taking position more. And the girls, actually, you're better than you think you are. You need to take some more positive shot choices. And when the girls see that they're actually about the same level as the boys, and that they can do the same things, they can actually take a different line of play and become better players purely by taking improved lines of play. And it's one of the key things to becoming better, is that belief in yourself.
Yes, for sure. That's very interesting you talk about children, because we do a very similar exercise for that with the ladies we work with, and our experience is the majority of them will underrate themselves.
Yes.
Just like the girls do, the women do as well.
Yeah.
It must be an estrogen phenomenon.
Well, it's whether it's how girls are historically brought up, they play less ball games, There isn't historically been the same demands upon them, and now we're moving very much to a balanced society where girls are expected to get very good school results, go on to university, get a good career, earn the same as men. And maybe that will kick through into sport. We're already seeing, we've got the Women's World Cup on soccer at the moment, and the improvement in that over the last decade is phenomenal, and hopefully we're going to kick through into all phases of life, and that would be a good thing.
That would be a good thing. Absolutely. So there's a question here. Are the players in this championship subject to drug testing this year?
So the WCF from memory is a member of WADA. That's the World Anti-Drug Agency, and if a member of WADA comes down and says, I want to drug test someone, then I think we have to submit to that test. My understanding, it's about $2,000 per test.
Oh.
And the winner of this tournament is going to win $0. They're going to take a trophy home, and there's no prize money. So part of the question is, who's going to be bothered taking any drugs? So it's not really an efficient use. But I think at a croquet tournament 15 years ago, there was a random drug test happened, and I think that's the only one there's been. So yes, the players are subject. When I used to go to my GP in New Zealand, we'd had a briefing through Croquet New Zealand about drugs we were allowed to take, drugs we had to get authorised, and I'd say to my GP, is this WADA approved? Is there a different variant that I'm allowed to take that does the same thing that is approved? Because you don't want to suddenly, particularly in a team event, have a random drug test and find that something you're genuinely being given by your GP doesn't meet the criteria and the team's disqualified. But normally you can get a medical exemption for lots of the medications that people are on. But I think technically we are all subject to that.
Where did it come from?
Do you think that if this sport became a sport where the analogy would be, the $1 million putt in golf, that you would have the $1 million wicket shot, that things would be very different in that respect?
I suppose the main things you're looking at are things like beta blockers, and they'd be used to lower your heart rate, make you better under pressure. You might find some people taking those. That's definitely a possibility. There's been a very good survey done, and it was done of weightlifters, and they take anabolic steroids to get better, and it has all sorts of health implications, and these guys and girls die younger of various things. And it said to them, if you knew you could win a world championship by taking anabolic steroids, but you would die in 3 years' time, would you still take them? And 90% said yes.
Wow.
So
Boy, there's a message there, isn't there?
that's the power that when you get dedicated into a sport, people take really strange decisions. And again, weightlifting, not necessarily a big money sport, but winning the Olympic medal. And you've seen it in sprinting. Just let this be quiet while this shot's been taken behind me. You've seen it in all sorts of sports, sprinting, with the top sprinters getting their medals stripped from them. There's been a big thing in cycling over the last 15 years, and I probably shouldn't say too much on air about my personal views on that, but that's been really poor, and not what you want to see in sport, whether it's amateur or professional. So I don't think it would be a big thing, but there would be some player who would try to gain an advantage. Whether they'd achieve it or not is another matter.
It's interesting because you think one thinks that it's all about the money that they're going to make, but according to the wrestlers, it's really not.
It's not, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's winning.
It's a
It's
mindset.
being the best.
Yeah, interesting.
Lifting the big weight, setting a world record, all these things.
And then unfortunately not living long enough to enjoy it.
Or
Yes.
having health problems associated with their drug choices.
Well, switching gears, what do you think about this rise in these Spanish players?
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, very much the Spain model of croquet is along the same lines as the American model, where the majority of your croquet will be played at private members clubs. It might be golf club, but it will generally be an expensive type of private members club with lovely facilities. Might have a golf course attached to it. Will certainly probably have a restaurant and a bar. It will be a nice place to hang out, but quite exclusive and quite expensive.
Yes.
For your average, kid on the street, they're not just going to walk into a place like that, are they?
No.
And that's the Spain model. They're linked with golf clubs. They're lovely. They've got swimming pools outside and tennis courts and beautiful surroundings. But there's a limit as to the type of person that's going to have the opportunity to go to that type of location. My club in New Zealand is in the middle of a park. People walk past it during the day, not always from New Zealand. It can be foreign visitors walking through the park, and they can just look through and go, what's this game? Is it polo? Is it? I don't know what this game is. And they can talk through the fence or come round and have a go themselves. We'll show them how to do it, and hopefully that means that anyone can have a go at having a go at croquet. One of our top youngsters, a guy called Josh Freeth, just turned up one evening after school when I was mowing the lawns, and I drove the mower over to him and stopped and said, do you fancy having a go? And he said, yeah, I'd like to have a go. So we got him a mallet and he's hit some balls, and a few years later he was under 21 world champion, and a few years later he was world team champion for New Zealand. And the fact it is open, and I think both in England and New Zealand there's a widened sort of walks of life. You have different jobs, different careers, whereas in Spain and America it's a little bit more wealth orientated, and that's a positive in terms of it's easier to get sponsorship. Sponsors like sponsoring people who've got money. So, but on the other side, how do you get your average Joe to come and have a go at croquet? How do you get a brick builder come in and your road sweeper and your, all the people we need in life to do all the jobs that need doing? And we want to have a sport which is open to everyone, welcoming to everyone. I know Nottingham Club in the UK, where I'm a member, has just last year won a diversity award, and they have lots of ethnicities involved. Actually reach out to different parts of the community and say, have we got, my local club at United went to our local mosque and we said, would you like to come and have a go? Bring the family, we'll just have an afternoon for members of the mosque, and we'll show you how to play. And they loved it. So yes, you've got a local community. We've got local Buddhists who we're going to have a go with next year, I think. Let's get more diversity into the sport.
Well, I think we've got our players back.
Good spot.
Yes.
I hadn't noticed that. Very good. So I think this yellow ball's gone a bit too far. So I'm not sure Maram can actually get in the jaws. She might just have to clear the blue here. And she'll be looking to cut it on the left hand side to keep position in front of the hoop with yellow. on the boundary, I think, while moving blue sideways off the boundary. Yeah, that's the right shot. Preferred it a bit thinner, I think. She hit a bit too much of that. And Gabrielle's got 3 genuine choices. Clear red, take on the hoop, or try and get between red and the hoop, because red at the hoop's not easy.
No, that's quite an angle. And she's got black there.
And I'd be tempted to take position. Possibly not even between red and the hoop. If you take straighter position, you allow black the angle to potentially block yellow at blue, and just give red the hoop shot. It's a bit risky, but golf croquet is a gambling game.
Yes.
It's what are the odds of this happening compared to what are the odds of that happening? You got to work it all out in your head. And she's taking the sort of routine. I'm going to clear red. I'm not going to give it the chance.
The safer shot.
But if you don't hit this in the middle, suddenly blue's disappeared.
That's right. You're out of position.
Or you miss it completely.
Yeah.
That's not good at all. And does that come back to your question, should they have had a break? Was it a lunch break, or was it just a long drinks break? Who knows? So we'll see now whether it would have been right or wrong to take position. Is Mariam just going to cruise through this hoop one?
I'm sort of a fan in the beginning of really trying to control the wicket.
Yeah.
Keeping my 2 balls in position. People tend to be a little bit more jittery when they're first starting out, that miss some of the easier shots.
Yeah. That's how I try and play the first 6 hoops. Good shot.
Oh,
So
very nice.
good decision from Gabrielle. She's obviously spotted Mariam was going to be quite confident about that. She's had a go. Now she needs to get her shooting back after that little break.
She needs to get control right now. Put it up in a really nice position.
It's okay. It's probably a bit angled, 30 degrees maybe.
Definitely a threat.
And in my experience, on days like this where, what do you think it is now, about 16, 17 degrees? It's not warm, is it?
It's not warm, no.
The Egyptians generally play worse. And what Gabrielle will probably be hoping for is some rain.
The Americans don't like that either.
Because if you can get cold and wet, then suddenly these Egyptian players are going to be 200 points worse on their performance level. Now they won't be liking the cold. Both of these players are well wrapped up, aren't they?
Oh, yes.
This looks like it's a bit short. So red at black. So black's sufficiently good, I think red has to shoot at this. And for those of you who watch a lot of golf croquet, you'll notice a similarity in the technique between Mariam and Mo Karem. So that Irish grip at the top of the mallet.
You slide it down.
Yeah, it's quite a planned process, isn't it? It's a good stalk, it's a foot plant, it's getting the hands in position, the mallet straight, then the hands go down the mallet, and then a nice smooth swing. I'm not a fan of moving my hands after I've taken my stance. I'm a fundamentally grip it as you're meant to hit it, stalk it. I'll break once Gabrielle goes back to stalk that again, but yeah, just get your feet and your shoulders in the same position, and then having done that, why bother moving your hands?
Yeah, that extra movement can only bring in variability.
Yeah. So Gabrielle looking at quite a tricky spot to get to, which you might block yellow at the hoop and also be wired from red. But it's not a big target area.
She's going to try to block red from blue, perhaps.
No, I think that's just...
Well, she did it.
she's got a really good shot. So she's
Yeah.
blocked yellow at the hoop and got it wide from red. So I think we'll see yellow clear black. And the question is, will blue take the hoop on then?
That was a nice shot.
So two choices. The same stop shot clearance, trying to keep blue almost on the same blade of grass yellow is, or the hoop attempt. And I'm going to take the clearance here and
I
try
agree.
and get a good stop shot. And you have to hit them harder than that, because by the time blue hit yellow, it had stopped skidding. So it's
rolling.
already rolling forward, and you don't get that crisp contact. So she needed to hit that about 4 times harder. So two choices once again. Red can just take position and accept that if black doesn't clear red or yellow, yellow can clear blue. Or red could just have had a centre ball clearance on blue, which is probably what I would have done. Well, it's a very well played shot in terms of taking position. I just think yellow, this clearance on blue isn't difficult. It's a quarter ball contact, but it's only at about 4 or 5 feet. She should get this, potentially clearing black as well. Yeah.
Very nicely done.
The only positive from Gabrielle's perspective is she is going to have a double target coming back, red and the hoop. But at that short range, those quarter ball contacts are really comparatively easy at this standard. As a Maram, I reckon she's probably the second best. She's ranked third best of the Egyptians, but I do rate her quite highly. Hasn't got as much power as Soha. Soha's the most powerful of the players, and power is important at golf croquet. Good shot.
Oh, nicely done.
Keeps herself in the hoop, but black and blue quite a long way away. Red and yellow not only closer, but first to play.
This is the exact position that I do not like being blue and black, because I feel like they're just going to make me work really hard. Now if I'm red and yellow, I'm very happy.
Now if black's open on that, I tend to clear it. The normal theory is you always play your first ball in and clear with your second ball, but in this instance blue's not guaranteed to have a shot at red if it allows the red to stay there, because yellow's got a fairly straightforward block. So if black has full ball at red, I'm going to take it. And she's just taking position here. And this will give yellow two choices. Yellow's got a trivial stop shot clearance on black, and that's what I'm going to play.
Me too.
Ideally hitting it fractionally on the right to get hoop position.
Right.
To just get rid of the ball that's played before you. Every time you get the chance to get rid of the ball that's played before you, it's normally right. Or she can play the block blue on red. That's more difficult.
I think that's where she's going.
She's nudging red behind the hoop. So giving it a more difficult hoop, and arguably giving blue the chance of a double clearance. Blue can either hit yellow on the left hand side, cannoning it into red, or on the right hand side, flicking into red. So that's the definite chance for blue to get a double clearance. So red should be at worst able to jaws, and it might just be able to run as well. But I would have
Think she's
preferred the
clear
clearance.
black? Clear black
yeah,
and try to get herself down to the next wicket.
you
off
can
of black?
definitely do that. She's going to be 2-0 up if she runs it. I don't like having black have another shot when, if you hit it on the left and get to hoop 3 like she has done, you can not just hit yellow. If you get the right angle, you go in off. And I think red in the jaws there guarantees going 2-0 up. And okay, this improves the chance of getting 3-0 up, but Gabrielle has a small chance of getting back to 1-1 here. I didn't want to offer that to her.
And let's remember how their last game ended with a nice clear that ended up scoring
11.
in off the ball.
Yeah. Well, we've got a good angle behind this to see whether it starts off online. It's not a million miles away.
No, I don't think so.
Hoop. Oh, that was runnable from there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, so Mariam's gamble is paid off. She's going to go 2-0 up with a nice red, which will immediately be able to clear the blue. So the question I'm going to ask you is, after yellow runs, whereabouts are you going to go with blue?
I'm going deep.
How deep?
I'd go about, I might get close to the baseline because the way she can clear that ball, I put it where she can't move me.
So that's backing your ability to clear a 5 or 6 yarder. I'm going to be more attacking. I'm going to go 3.5 yards deep and force red to clear me.
Okay.
Because I'm still going to be playing in first to the hoop each time. And there's nothing wrong with that because it forces red to clear. And occasionally, Mariam's going to miss one of those. It's probably 1 out of 10 she's going to miss that. And I think if you go all the way to the boundary, the Egyptian players are actually most of the time at this level going to be quite comfortable, and they're going to go 1.5 foot back and just try and get the tight control and say, look, if you play a series of good shots, you're going to win the hoop, sure, but I'm going to bank overall that you're not.
What I've noticed about these Egyptian girls is they have a great confidence on their clearing ability. So they'll do a lot of setting up with the first ball, knowing that they can clear with the second. And there are a lot of players who think I have to do the clearing with the shorter clearing shot because they have a better probability of making it.
I think the fact that red's gone there indicates Mariam doesn't think blue's going to run the hoop. She probably thinks it can get in the jaws, but she doesn't think it's a just run it halfway down the lawn shot. I think Gabrielle will certainly be trying to run the hoop, and will regard the jaws as an acceptable result. So yeah, that's an attempt at the jaws, and that's that Atkins little pingy. It was only a gentle shot, but suddenly it's pinged 2 balls back again instead of sogging into the wire or the middle of the jaws. And yeah, if yellow's got a straightforward jump, I was going to say he might just clear the black, but red might be open by the look of this.
I think she is.
There might even be an in-off available, clearing blue and getting through the hoop. We just don't have a great angle from here to see what Mariam's got.
She did
yeah, clearance
Very
in and
nice.
off. Lovely shot. That wasn't lucky, that was deliberate, played for, well executed.
And now she's up 3.
And the Egyptian players understand how to protect a lead. you'll find Miriam's balls are kept in position. She won't have wild trashes at things and suddenly be on an offside spot here. She'll be keeping control of the lawn, and even if she concedes a hoop, she'll be trying to get the next one and just trade from 3-0 up, trading one hoop at a time. You're going to win. So just move that red ball so it's got a chance of a clearance. The downside is she has actually lost control of the yellow, and it has gone to a bad spot. So a bit surprised she opted to do that. Poor positional shot from Gabrielle. Miriam will play in between black and the hoop here. And I want Gabrielle to take the hoop on with black, providing she's open on it, simply because yellow's offside. So she's 3-1 down. If she runs the hoop with balls sort of lurking near hoop 4, it's not a strong position for hoop 5, but if yellow has to go in from the offside spot, there's always that chance that it will not get position. As it was, Miriam's played a lovely blocking shot. And when you're doing these little nudgy clearances, you're always trying to hit the ball so your ball goes towards the short boundary side. So she's played it very nicely, but Miriam's now got time to get the yellow back into play, and needs to make a decision that she doesn't want to put it close to either blue or black.
Yeah, black in that position becomes a real threat.
It does.
So, very powerful spot. So look what she's done. Very clever.
So that's what I tend to coach the Kiwis to do. Put a nice neutral ball in towards the side boundary. I think it's too close to black. I think, you know, black needs to be a bit further away from that. I'd have preferred 4 feet further away. Blue can just hopefully take position. Doesn't want to leave red an easy clearance on it.
No, she's clearly wasn't happy with that shot.
We'll be trying for this central takeout. Hasn't played it particularly well. That red's been lost up to the peg, and we're very much in a neutral position again. Black can take position on the opposite side to yellow. I think yellow will feel forced to clear that. It won't want to have to take position and clear with red. Again, the standard Egyptian play is to take position and then clear, but I think she'll want to get rid of this straight away.
Yeah, it's a much better angle for her to clear it from yellow than it is for her to clear it from red.
Yeah, that's a much better shot.
Yeah.
And 50-50, not much in it here. Again, Gabrielle will take position on the opposite side of the hoop to yellow again, on that short boundary side. Red will also take position. And then we'll probably see black try and play in between yellow and blue.
Oh, here I have my buddy Cheryl Brownlee.
Is it right here?
Yep, it's in there. You say hello, Cheryl.
Hello everyone, this is Cheryl Bromley. Hope you're all enjoying this. This is so much fun. And the commentating is superb.
So, good opportunity here to get the block. Whilst it's moving black a long way, it's going on a very good block line. It's got a good chance of finishing between that yellow and blue. And we'll have to have a look as to whether Miriam thinks she's got the clearance or not. If blue doesn't run, she can just simply clear black. But if blue does run,
It's hard to tell from this angle.
she'll have to try a double clearance if it's blocked.
No, I'm waiting for...
Yeah, that was a good block, followed by attempt at a double clearance, which missed. And hopefully Gabrielle's got not too difficult a hoop here to get her first point of the game. Remember, this is game 3 of the match. 7-2 in the first to Miriam, and 7-4, good comeback from Gabrielle in the second. Hold on, we're out of sync here, aren't we? Yellow's just played. It's blue to play.
She's stopping her. Yeah.
So very good. Mariam's reminded her of that. Just for viewers to explain, we do not have sequence umpires at this event. So I've already made a mistake when I arrived on 10 o'clock on day one, and I've shouted out wrong ball. But I'm not meant to do that. The referees aren't meant to do that. There are no sequence umpires here. So it's down to the players. And it was tricky, and she hasn't managed to get in the middle.
Now we'll see if Red can do the jump. Her last attempt she missed.
It's not standard Egyptian play to jump from there. They're going to nudge in to give an easier jump position, so blue can't clear. And yeah, whilst the non-Egyptian players would have quite fancied that jump shot, their standard play was playing tighter. Yellow's got a potential clearance on blue, and they're basically saying, I've got a shorter jump. Potentially it might not be a jump if yellow clears blue, so black needs to clear red.
It looks like she's going for position. Oh, she's going for the block on yellow.
Again, I'm not sure that she's got it. Whatever happens, hopefully the viewers can see that instead of having that jump from double the distance, she's now halved the distance without having to play any good shots. So it's a good tactical decision not to have gone for that longer jump.
Yes.
And we'll see if she's open on blue here. Because if she is, this is not just going to win hoop 4, it's going to get a ball near 5. No, she's cleared the black and moved the blue, so it's got an easy clearance on red, but might also be able to run the hoop. I don't want to run the hoop side. I want to play this stop shot.
There we go.
And just squeeze out a little bit to the right hand side. Still being in hoop running position, but that's okay.
Nicely done.
That's okay.
There's a comment just to let people know. Someone said, please stop shaking the camera. It's the wind that's blowing the automatic camera that's causing it to shake a little bit.
Yeah, so just to explain to people, the automatic camera is probably, what do you think, about 14, 15 feet in the air?
Oh yeah, easily. Yeah.
And we do have a little bit of wind today. So it's just on a pole, and I'm afraid it is going to wobble a wee bit.
And hey Maggie Hayworth, it's blistering hot in Alabama. We're glad that you're watching us. Just saying hello to Cheryl and Debbie.
Again, no need to do anything other than play in here. If you can get between yellow and blue, great, but that you've got to be in hoop running position.
A little bit short.
The normal thing is yellow's going to clear blue, and that's not a problem because it's been cleared to a short boundary. But when black isn't in position, the shot back doesn't really reward anything. It's all to save the hoop rather than to gain the hoop. Nice central clearance, and now this blue has to hit red just to stay in the hoop.
And so many times when you do a really good center ball, it'll also provide a nice block.
Potentially.
When balls roll, yeah.
One of the things I tell people, because lots of people are obsessed with hitting 7-yarders, and I say failing to take position is the equivalent of missing a 7-yarder.
So would you rate in your practice more time on just ball position or more time on clearing?
I think you need to do both. I encourage people to do what they're worst at. Try and improve what your weakness is. I was a very good positional player. I'm not a very good 7-yarder. So I would probably do more 7-yarder than positional play, simply because I was good at the positional play. But always make sure you have every part of the game in your practice set, but focus on improving your weakest elements, because you'll get the most benefit out of that. This is 4-0 now, and having seen Gabrielle win the last 7-4, I certainly didn't expect a 4-0 start. A little bit short again. It's runnable, but when you're 4-0 down, you want to think that you can run it all the way up to hoop 6 comfortably.
Right. You've got to be thinking in doubles.
Doubles, exactly, yeah. and that's short as well.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised to see Gabrielle play 3 to 4 feet past black on the line of black and just try and nudge it a foot or 18 inches, making sure if she misses, blue's still in front. And she's got the block on red. Black's swing isn't hampered, but its stance might be. And Maram's got a choice of maybe trying to hit blue and get the double clearance, or saying, actually, black's hoop's not straight enough, I'm 4-0 up. If you fail it, I'm just going to put another ball in there, a jumping ball. Now, this looks like a potential double clearance. Are the hands going to go down the mallet? Here we go. So quite a firm shot coming up, I expect. And she's got the black very nicely. I don't think yellow's got a particularly easy hoop shot, so I don't think Gabrielle needs to clear yellow here.
Yeah, I think it's going to be stop shotting blue.
So just playing black back into position.
Try to be wired from red.
That's not in position.
A bit long.
So I think yellow at blue is the right shot, but it's not going to be just a stop shot, because if she plays a little stop shot, black's going to be all over yellow. So she's got to move yellow a little bit away from black. I don't like that at all. That's a nothing shot to me. It's leaving black complete control over yellow. All blue's got to do is come back into really good hoop running position.
So where would you have liked yellow to end up?
I'm going to try and squeeze it out either further left or probably try and squeeze it 4.5 yards further right, just to give it a more difficult clearance. The concept of leaving it there is black's going to clear it to the south boundary, which it isn't that far away. My opinion is black can cut it half ball to almost our camera position, a few yards east of corner 1, and then it is a much longer shot from there than the south boundary. So just a good positional shot needed here. I'm not happy with that. It's not close enough.
Yeah.
Want a good extra yard minimum on it. Red will play him. Red's not going to feel threatened. I'm also worried that blue's in the line of where I want to clear it. That sort of half ball contact towards corner 1.
So when you're in doubt among a lot of different options, what's your go-to? I mean, if you're really, like, would you say position?
So there's normally 3 options, aren't there? There's position, clearing, and hoop shot. And often it's black and white. But when we start to get into grey areas, my standard go-to order is position first, hoop shot second, clearing third. And as you play at a higher and higher level, the hoop goes on top of the position.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but you have to be really quite at an elite level before I start switching over.
Yeah.
And I'll always start the match with position above hoop. And as my opponent starts to show that they're actually playing brilliantly, then I'll swap it over and I'll take the hoop. Again, one of the things I mentioned earlier was if you can clear the ball that's just played before you, do. And I want Gabrielle to play that at least twice as hard. I want yellow to go within a couple of yards of the boundary, whereas at the moment I'm looking at this as red and yellow as red takes position, preferably blocking black's hoop shot. Black hasn't got anything other to do than take position potentially, and yellow can smash blue away. Whereas if blue had hit the clearance twice as hard, instead of it having a 4-yarder, it would have a 8, 9, 10 yard.
Right.
So because of that, Gabrielle now has to take this clearance.
Yeah, and we're just going to leave black out of position the way she has to clear that ball.
Unless she gets lucky. Played it at the right pace. Black is actually not bad there, so still within about 6 or 7 yards of the hoop. But it was a rescue shot. It was I had to do that to stay in the hoop. And at the moment, Maram is controlling the game both physically and tactically. And that needs to go on the opposite side to red. I still think red can just take position here because yellow's all over blue. It could stun blue away on the basis of clearing the ball that's just played, but I'm not sure yellow's close enough for Maram to want to do that. She's going to want to get her balls, one of her balls, close to the hoop, and this is an opportunity to get red tight in. Clearing blue is solid, but I'm probably going to nudge red in.
And she did. Nicely done.
And once again, Gabrielle's in bother. I think she has to clear red if she's open on it.
I agree.
Even if she clears yellow, it's not a massively long return clearance from Maram. She's trying to play the block. Needs to squeeze past the blue, which she's done.
Oh, she's gone past the past.
Hilled, yeah. Reasonable option, but not a easy shot to play.
Yes.
And now this blue ball's going to be miles away, and red's going to have that tight position we mentioned earlier. The Egyptian players love winning easy hoops.
I think all players do. And particularly where that red ball is, you can really hit a nice shot to get it down to the next hoop.
Yeah, and that's exactly what she'll have tried to do. Hit it half ball on that side and make sure it's got the hoop in the way. Gabrielle has no shot here, and she's just going to play back on side, and she'll be 5-0 down, and red's quite likely to be not a million miles away from hoop 6.
So she's gone for the block and didn't quite get it. But I do think she's over. She's not going to be off sides. She got it far enough.
I think she's just gone far enough from this angle. And the hoops have stayed pretty good, haven't they, given the soft ground?
Really
there hasn't been that much hammering gone on, just a little bit of tapping down between matches. Obviously, we don't have the power hitting that you get in open worlds, but there's still plenty of firm hoop strokes going on. And that's done the opposite of what I'd have tried to do. Normally when you run hoop 5 to hoop 6, you're trying to get somewhere between the peg and hoop 6. There I would have been trying to get either to hoop 6 or a bit past it. Because if you run it to the peg, blue's so close to red that if black takes position, red's going to be miles away, isn't it?
Yes.
Or even snuggled. So that's an okay positional shot. That's one of her better shots this game.
So she has to go after with yellow.
And I simply think because Maram's 5-0 up, she's not going to do any hard, thrashy shooting. She's going to accept that she might lose the hoop. It does look like she's shooting here. I'm surprised at this. I thought she would play just to keep her balls in position 5-0 up. And again, she's gone mid-pace. So that's the balance. Trying to hit it mid-pace, stay close. I think blue will play back into position, trying to block red's hoop shot. And if it doesn't get the block, I wouldn't be surprised to see red have a go. Because it might not get a go if it doesn't take it now.
We haven't really seen any long hoop shots in this game.
No, and it's a feature of the Egyptian play that they're coached to try and take control of the hoop. Just exactly as we said we both start matches. We don't try deliberately to give ourselves 7-yard power clearances to start with. We both try and keep putting balls in front, getting the opponent to either miss or quarter ball them and go a long way away, and just keep going in front. So if red is open, I think red will have a shot at the hoop. It's in a weak position.
I can't tell if yellow is blocked on.
So definitely going firmly. That's her firm technique. Lovely shot, and really very good tactical choice. With yellow on the boundary, red there, black and blue controlling the hoop, that was going to be her best chance. And you said we haven't seen many long shots because they haven't. Mariam hasn't viewed it as the right option. She's constantly tried to take tight position. There, she knew that was probably going to be her best chance, and she's played a lovely shot, 6-0. And one of my golden rules.
Oh, I think I know what you're going to say.
If you're first to play to a hoop,
Do not promote.
never promote your partner ball.
Here it comes.
That shot,
And this is exactly why.
even for an AC player, that shot is simply much more difficult than black taking position.
Yes.
If you're second to play to a hoop, great. Go and promote all day long if you want to.
Yes.
But now the first ball in front is Mariam, and the likelihood is we're going to see a whitewash.
It becomes rather a wasted shot.
It does. And you know, even if you pull that off, blue's clearance wasn't that long. It was about nine yards.
Oh, and she almost got the block. Oh, light. Nice.
Yeah. And that's the shots the AC players ought to be good at. You know, they're good at 7-yarders. They should to be good hoop runners as well. But it still's only 7 yards away. Let Mariam take this shot. Yeah, decent clearance. Almost got the in off.
Yeah.
But the beauty of yellow hitting the hoop is it's remained close.
Oh, that's a rare miss.
Yep, no, she's quite good at that distance. And yeah, game 1 and game 3 have been very weak from Gabrielle's perspective. I think it's been a strong performance by Mariam. Hit pretty much all of her clearances, maintained good control throughout the match. Just going to get the hammer and just tap this hoop down. And people used to say the Egyptians don't win 7-0 because they think it's rude, but I think we're about to see Mariam decide no, actually
It's
I'm
not
going
rude.
to win 7-0. This is fine. You beat me last game. That wasn't very nice of you.
That's right.
I'm going to make sure I win this.
Turnabout is fair play. Or as they say, all's fair in love and war, I guess. Well, she's played a beautiful game.
Yeah, and certainly one of the players I'm expecting to get to the quarterfinals. Yeah, very good.
Very nice.
And had 8, hoop 8 been needed, it's quite nicely in front of hoop 8.
Yeah.
But that was a good win. Gabrielle not on top form, but equally I thought it was strong, that from Maram. Dropped a game early on in the event to one of the Australian ladies, who she would have been expecting to beat 2-0. But in many ways these blocks for the top players are as much about improving their own standard and settling in and getting better as simply winning. She'll be pleased to have got past Gabrielle, because Gabrielle is a potential player she could lose to, but I think equally she will be pleased with her own performance level.
So you walk away from this game and you start thinking about the next.
Yeah. I want to think about are there areas where I could have been better, and constantly throughout the tournament I'm trying to work out how well do I need to play, first of all to win my next match in a knockout, but eventually the concept of how well do I have to play to win the championship. And you're watching the other sort of 6 or 7 top players and you're trying to work out which of them are on their good form, which are okay, and which are a little bit off form. Because there's nothing worse than trying to pitch your level too high. If you try and play at your peak when you don't need to, well, you're quite likely to fail, because if you're trying to play your peak, you're taking on a whole load of difficult shots. Whereas if you can actually judge the level absolutely accurately, you're going to maximise your chance of winning all the time. Taking the right lines of play. A lot more playing in than clearing that game, wasn't there? Well, a lot of playing in.
Yes.
And anyone who watched the Open Worlds last year will have seen Robert Fulford constantly putting a ball back in there, almost on the blade of grass each time.
Yes.
Maybe hitting the odd 7-yarder to stay in it, but not going for any of the power clearances because he didn't have that shot. And if you can get to the final of a Open Worlds doing that, you can do very, very well at this event by just excellent positional play, consistency at 7 yards.
So we have a comment here, question for Chris. If AC players are so good at 7-yarders and hoop running, what aren't they good at?
Well, it takes a while for people who come to the game to know what to do tactically. So taking the right options is something where I've watched a few games this morning, and even more experienced dual code players have taken what I regard as weaker options, and it's normally they try and clear too early, or they try and run the hoop too early, rather than take a wired position or take a neutral clearance that just allows the hoop to extend rather than having to take a 4-yard hoop on. So I think that decision making process is particularly strong, whether it's GC only or if we're just talking about the Egyptian players who are all GC only players. That is certainly something I would like to see the dual code players improve, is that decision making tactical aspect of the game. I don't think the AC players are bad positionally. I think they're generally quite good, and they're generally pretty good at jump shots. So potentially ball interactions around hoops, being able to play a stop shot from 4 feet away, knowing within one ball where the striker's ball is going to finish. It's not something that's particularly important at AC. We're always playing a rush, trying to think about where the front ball's going to finish. But at GC, you're actually often, the back ball is the more important. Can I get it to stop on that spot, which will be in hoop running position and blocking my opponent, as well as clearing that ball quite a long way away. Now, if you can do that, I call it back ball control. And you need to be quite close to the object ball. You can't be doing it from 4 yards away. But when you're within a few feet of it, you can get your ball skidding, get a full ball contact to a fractional off centre, and work out exactly where your ball's going to finish. That's a skill that takes a bit of learning.
Yeah, controlling the striker ball is something that when players start doing it, their games change dramatically. It's all of a sudden adds another level of thinking, another level of playing.
So obviously things like gauging in offs is another thing, and the AC players have a pretty good idea because they're used to playing split shots and they know about general ball mechanics. But again, knowing where the ball's going to go when it's skidding or when it's rolling, that ball's going to go in a different direction depending on the skid or the roll.
Right.
It's only maybe going to be 5 degrees different. That's quite a lot when it's quite close to a hoop, and it's either going to bounce into a wire or go through the hoop. You want it to be going through the hoop. That's a learning process, isn't it?
So we have a question here from Kathy Jenkins. Debbie, can you tell us a little about the Women's Golf Croquet Academy? Yeah, absolutely. The Women's Golf Croquet Academy was started formally about a year and a half ago, and we've put about 150 women through the program so far. And what we do is we develop, we've dealt with women of all skill abilities, from beginning to competitive tournament players. And they come in and they work with us on drills and skills and strategies and individualized coaching. We spend 2 days and maybe another tournament day after that, or sometimes 2.5 days, depending on the group that wants to bring us in. We come to you. And we've had some women take it multiple times because they keep progressing and they keep learning more and more every time they go. We go through self-assessments. We have certified instructors that really work with the individuals in groups according to their levels.
Yeah.
And we just find it to be a very wonderful experience for women. We absolutely love teaching. We talk about angled shots, we talk about hoop shots, we talk about the swing, the stance, the grip. Really just trying to elevate everybody's golf croquet game.
Which is what we need to be achieving, isn't it? If everyone just gets a little bit better, then it's more fun for everyone.
Yes, absolutely. So an organization or a club or a group of people will come to us and ask us to do a program for them, and we'll sort of tailor it to the size, we'll tailor it to the attendees, and we'll either go to them, or we do once a year offer it at our location or at a location that we choose. And it's been very, very well received.
Well, that sounds great. Really positive.
Oh, I think we're going to have a change.
So, many thanks for your time, Debbie.
Well, it has been absolutely my pleasure.
And we're going to be replaced
Yeah.
by Tim and Lindsay Hobbs, I believe. So,
And I think they're going to be watching Louise Smith and Jamie Gumbrough from Australia, which will be a great game.
So you've got a full South African commentary team now.
All right.
And yeah, thanks for your time, Debbie.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. Here you go.
Well, there we are. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much indeed to our previous commentators there who've done a sterling effort so far today. So, yes, my name is Tim King. I'm the tournament director. I think some of you yesterday, if you were watching, saw me rushing around being a ball boy, and now I've been dragged in to be a commentator. But even more importantly, I'm joined by Lindsay Hobbs.
Hello, hello.
And so, Lindsay, this is your first Women's World Championship that you've played in, I believe.
Absolutely correct, yes.
And how's it been so far?
An experience so far. Your first match was against the reigning champion. No, it's been good. I think, I don't know if I don't want to sound blasé, but I wasn't really nervous, and I think it was a case of, well, I've actually got nothing to prove with it. Just come along, enjoy myself, gain some experience, look at how different people are playing, that sort of thing. After, I mean, I've had a long break from playing croquet, and yeah, no, it's been good so far, and I'm just looking forward to it. Looking forward to every match and just taking every match as it comes.
That sounds like an absolutely brilliant attitude. You now do live in England, I believe?
That's correct, yes, we live in Kent.
Okay, and which is not very far from where we are here in Southwick, but have you had experience playing here on these courts before?
I've never played here, no. I've played at Ramsgate, Tunbridge, and I played a couple of tournaments up in Scotland.
Excellent, good. So, what we're waiting for at the moment in terms of some actual live action for our viewers to see is going to be Lou Smith from England and Jamie Gumbrell from Australia, and so they're just busy warming up, and we will see them start when they finish that period. Unfortunately, I didn't see very much of the previous match on here. But it looked as though Moran came back very strongly in the third game to defeat Gabrielle. But she's another lady who's playing for the first time in a World Championship. But she's been playing a little bit more frequently than you have, I think.
Oh yes, yeah. Gabby's part of the circuit
Yeah.
over here.
Now, but I think you probably also ought to explain to the listeners your croquet career, because if I understand correctly, you did used to play a bit more when you were in South Africa.
Yes, I played in South Africa. My first tournament was the Gauteng Open.
Okay.
Very rushed into it because we had a lack of players.
Okay.
And Andrew, my husband, he's sort of definitely a well-known croquet player. He literally showed me how to play croquet using my daughter's Lego, a hammer and some golf balls, because we were a player short.
Okay, wow.
And that was it. I enjoyed it. And that was that. I played with Clive Coulson and Cheryl Coulson. Reg was over because it was our first one up in Joburg when we were sort of starting croquet to get it back up and running up in Johannesburg.
Okay.
It was pre-Johannesburg Country Club time, Country
Right.
Club Johannesburg. So Chris and Esther hadn't come over yet and sort of expanded croquet and done the wonderful work that they did.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. I was a bit clueless, I'll be totally honest. I had all these little sticks sticking out because I had about a gazillion bisques. And yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I didn't realise at that point sort of what it all entailed and the thinking behind it, and sort of forward thinking. If I do this, I've got to do the next thing, and that sort of thing. I'd watched Andrew play, but I didn't really have an idea as such about it. So we did that. Went down to nationals down at Rondebosch Country Croquet Club.
Yeah.
Which actually got me, for association point of view, I think that was my second tournament. We took a load of juniors down with us to play in the golf croquet. They were all standard 5, so year 7 students at the primary school that Andrew was teaching at.
Okay.
So we sort of got croquet going there, and they enjoyed it.
Yes.
And we went down. All the golf croquet trophies came back to Joburg that year, except because Hans van Noort got one of them, and then the youngsters won the rest of them. So
Brilliant.
That was actually quite good. We did a lot of fundraising for that to get them down. It's obviously with the expense.
Yes. Yeah.
And then somebody very kindly gave us a house that we could use for them to reside in while they were staying down there. So that was really nice to get them going. In all honesty, I haven't got a clue if they're still playing or not.
Yeah, I guess it's possible I've played a little bit more croquet in South Africa than you have in recent years. I've been there sort of 2 or 3 times for some of the events that are run, it does seem as though perhaps not many of them have carried on, it's. Of course, one of the things that Chris said as he handed over, he talked about there being 2 South Africans commentating. Well, I'm sure the viewers have worked out that I don't have a very South African accent, and this is certainly true at the moment that the WCF have me registered as being South African because there was a possibility a year ago in the AC Team Championship that I might have stepped in to play, and my father was born in South Africa, but I didn't play last year, so I'm still uncapped for South Africa. But we'll have to see what happens. Yes, we're getting a thing here which is telling me, oh, okay, so we've got all sorts of things that we're learning as a commentary duo here, but I'm sure the listeners, the viewers will forgive us if we make mistakes. The good news is that the players are putting clips on themselves, and that means I think we're actually going to have some play to talk about rather than our personal biographies. So we have got Louise Smith. Looks as though she is playing blue and black, and she's certainly about to play the blue ball. And Jamie is playing with the red and yellow. So how have you found the pace of the court so far, Lindsay?
You know, I'm actually probably the worst person to ask that question of. Even I used to play golf, and even in golf, when it came to the putting green, I was just ridiculously bad at actually deciding if it was running heavy or light or whatever. Once I'd played the shot, of course, I knew exactly how it was running.
Right.
But they were a bit heavier this morning than yesterday, and I think there was quite a bit of dew on this morning. Yesterday afternoon they were playing very nicely. Relatively true. There's they that much I will sort of say they were relatively true. It's the ground. I mean, the groundsmen have done an absolutely fabulous job.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, all 11 lawns are looking in really, really good nick. You know, nobody's grumbled yet. Let's put it that way. So nobody's blamed the lawn for their play.
I think that would be a little bit cheeky to do that with the courts here, and certainly Southwick, the Sussex County Croquet Club, have made some very bold decisions in terms of how to look after these courts. They do have a professional contractor in now, and the dedication that they put in is really borne a lot of fruit, and we now see Jamie being almost identical with his red and his yellow, and Lou's first blue was very good. So we're going to have a little bit of an interesting what do we say, cluster there that might need sorting out. So what do we think? Do we possibly Lou? Because one of the interesting things that I think inexperienced players are never quite sure of until they get it explained to you is that there are times when you can very much hit the ball off centre and it still goes straight. And when I say off centre, not necessarily the centre of the mallet, but clearly Lou didn't have a full.
He was a bit hampered there.
That's right. But of course, knowing that with yellow sitting right behind red,
make life difficult.
Because one of the interesting things about I always find with watching, commentating on croquet is that at times you really do wish you'd got several cameras around the court, and it's only when Jamie's played that shot that we can be sure that yellow was sufficiently behind red that there was no danger that he was going to commit a fault by hitting the yellow at the same time on that shot. So what? One of the things we didn't tell the viewers is that you and I actually met for the first time. I think it was it 2007? It was
that sounds
15,
right.
16 years ago, and you were it was the Ramsgate International,
2006, I think, possibly.
Okay, there you are, and I remember being struck by you are a hockey player, and clearly you are a lady who's a natural sports person, I would suggest. But how about in terms of the golf croquet and what you remember from then, and do you feel that the sport's progressed since you last played it?
I think from then to now, I would say yes. I think it's there's a lot more you can do with the ball that I don't think we were thinking about doing with the ball, and that whole sort of the ball's halfway through the hoop, and sort of that sort of thing, come back. And I think sort of if it's jawsed, that's fine. You think you carry on, and then it's just a case of, well, do I actually progress my partner ball up halfway if it's my opponent that's in the hoop, or take it off to the sideline, that sort of thing. They're bringing it back and getting the choice of if they sort of don't hit anything and go, sort of progress past halfway, sort of what side to put them on. I think it gives it a different facet to the game, where often you'll actually see that balls aren't all clustered around the hoop at the same time. And I think it does give you that extra element where, and I've done it myself, where I've played a ball off to the side because I'm sort of going, I'm not going to get anywhere with this hoop. There are some players that will then just maybe tackle their ball even further into the jaws that you're forced to play back. But I think it's definitely come on, and I think numbers of players, that are coming on. We're seeing tournaments over here where there's you've got your waiting list of players that want to enter the tournament, and I think that's a really positive thing.
Certainly, I feel that what's one comment I'd have on that would be that I've been lucky enough to be involved in all sorts of aspects of croquet in the past 20 years, including some of the administration around the golf croquet scene in the UK, and I think the CA can be very proud of the way in which we've grown the pyramid, so to speak, of GC, and there's always been a concern that perhaps, going back to your point about balls clustered around hoops, it's sort of seeming to be a very sort of gentle, unsophisticated, maybe even game. Whereas once you start seeing it at this level, seeing all the different choices, and gradually, as people have understood that, we've seen youngsters coming into the game as well, and of course starting at club level with competitive play, moving all the way up.
Yes, when we first moved over here, we belonged to Medway Croquet Club, and there it was. We had some fun on Saturdays and that thing, and Sundays and we did have the serious side as well. I played inter-counties for the ladies at Medway.
Excellent.
Which was great fun, and it was a different way of playing, I think, to where we're playing now. I don't know if it's me that's grown in croquet, and maybe I'm seeing it from a totally different angle now that I'm actually sort of really trying to get myself sort of back into it and playing. Watching Andrew for years and years, I've sort of got a pretty good idea of how it all works. But I think it's sort of, or maybe it's a competitiveness in me that's actually sort of coming out. I don't know, but I can sort of, it's progressed, it's exciting. You do things every now and then, you go, oh, how did I get that right? And even some of your top players are doing that. They're coming off and they're sort of smiling about something they've done on the lawn. And I think that's where it's getting quite exciting. And the jump shots, that's one bit that I've still got to master in it. And I think once I've got that going, because I've got a little bit of a background in AC, there's a couple of shots that I would do that maybe a traditional golf croquet only player might not do. But it's definitely there, and it's there for everyone. That's the beauty of it. It's a very level playing field.
And it's really exciting. What we have here this week with the Worlds. We've got youngsters like Jamie, Jessica, that's right, from New Zealand, some of the younger Egyptian players as well as those that have come to croquet later in life. And this morning I watched our fellow South African Judith Hanekom being given a very tough match against Liz Drury. So Liz is from the club in Eastbourne, Compton, which is half an hour along the coast from where we are here in Brighton, and she's only been playing a couple of years, and she showed that from some very clear, simple basics of being able to hit the ball straight and being able to judge how hard to hit the ball. It was interesting you mentioning that as well. You can actually begin to have a really strong foundation for your croquet.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, a lot of people will watch this who are maybe new to croquet or consider themselves novices or even playing a couple of years. And I think the big thing to remember is that, you know, deep down we all want to play as well as, you know, Jenny Clark and, you know, Debbie and Rachel, you know, sort of so hard, another really fantastic player. And, you know, deep down you want to, and you sort of imagine yourself going, oh, it'd be really nice to play that well. But if you're, you know, reading the lawns well, and your hoop running is consistent, and you can run from various angles, and, you know, you're hitting in and that sort of thing, there's nothing stopping anyone who is. There's nothing stopping anyone, you know, from progressing from who's just started.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So we now have the slightly unfortunate sight of some rather foul-looking rain coming in. We're all right. We're under an umbrella, and
the rain's coming in the correct direction for us.
That's right. There's a hut upwind from us, but Lou has just put on her waterproof top. Jamie looks as though she's comfortable with something that's probably not quite it's certainly not a full length jacket, but it's probably one that's going to keep this sort of rain off it. And of course, we do tend to carry on playing croquet in the rain as long as it doesn't get too wet. A
bit like that one you indicated.
Yeah, so there are some times when the lawns become very flooded. And the other experience I had actually going back to South Africa, and that's very nice from Lou. That's possibly fully into the jaws, but certainly in the right place to be able to run it in the next shot, depending on. So Jamie's going to have a couple of things that she can look at doing with the red and the yellow, but otherwise,
just sort of get in the way, which is always handy.
I always
nice sort of gentle. Let me get in the way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I always find these situations really interesting, because it looks to me as though Lou's going to go reasonably to the side of the hoop now. So she's done what I would consider to be a good thing, which is to put some distance between black and blue, which reduces the chance for Jamie to bombard the black onto the blue. But I always wonder whether the slight downside is black not being in a position where it can run the hoop if it's not been successful. But,
yeah, and there is always that. I don't know. Looking where I think it looks like there's a bit of space between blue and red.
Yeah. So
I think
it looks as though black did its job, and as you say, Lou appears she's going to have to be slightly careful, probably slightly hitting down into the ball, but she is going to be able to run this cleanly, we expect. Taking the time, just making sure. Oh, and she has faulted the red, and she has told Jamie that she did that. So I suspect that Jamie will leave the balls there, because red has only moved a little bit and it will still run.
It will still run.
And because it's a fault, the blue wouldn't count for the hoop point, and it would also be offside as well. So really, unless Jamie, because Jamie couldn't actually run that from where it was with blue in the way. So I think she should. She's now asking for a referee, which is always a good idea. Ian. Apologies to the viewers there. For the mallet went up to call a referee, but we had a pair of referees talking to each other, so they weren't quite aware of what had happened. So again, this is a really good example for those who are unfamiliar with tournament croquet. The referees are here to enforce the rules, but at the same time they are here to help the players understand.
They do, and they explain. They ask you. I mean, I had in my game earlier, I was a bit hampered. I'd run the hoop, but I'd only just sort of got through it, and I just automatically I I wouldn't attempt to just carry on playing where it is, because it's so easy to hit the upright with your mallet. You know, do it. You've got the sort of mallet slip slightly, plus a bit windy. Clips on slightly, and then, you know, I sort of touch the ball. I've got a nice crush going on there because I've got mallet, upright ball, and, you know, I just automatically sort of put it up. Please, you know, this is what I plan on doing. And they're really good, because I was asked, you know, what angle are you thinking of coming through? What is your angle you're looking at doing? Where are you sort of aiming to sort of get the ball to? Is it going to be very hard, or is it a soft shot you're doing? So they're extremely knowledgeable about, you know, sort of what they need to be looking for. Which always, you know, obviously always helps, and that's what they're there for. You know, you can ask them a question. There's been a couple of cases where somebody's played out of turn, colour wise, and they've just explained it, and, you know, off they go, and the, you know, sort of game carries on.
Yeah. So I think they've now just discussed about the offside status of blue. So Chris Roberts is coming back on, and what Chris will do is confirm that blue is in an offside position, because it went through the hoop, but as we know, Lou had faulted, and therefore effectively blue is just sort of as if she'd played it there directly, and because blue hasn't done anything else to become onside, for instance, it's not struck one of the opponent balls, it then means that it should be declared by the referee as being offside. Well, this is going to be an interesting one. I've put my reputation on the line here.
Just offside.
So fortunately, the championship referee on the court agrees with the championship referee who's currently commentating, so I'll put that one on my CV.
and that's the exact side that I would have placed the ball. Jamie's done exactly what I would have thought of doing.
Excellent, Lindsay, that's good to hear. So red, having run hoop 1 pretty well down to beside hoop 2 here, what's your feeling, Lindsay, if you were about to play the black? What sort of position would you think of playing that to?
I'd probably keep myself a bit of a distance from the hoop itself, because red is, if I get closer, red is going to just hit me out the way and replace themselves in a nice runnable hoop position. So I would probably bank myself on a good 5-yarder, and then again, of course, if red does come in, my black's there, I can clear red and then leave myself the hoop position.
And there we are.
Which is pretty much what's happened.
It certainly has. So I can see why you get to be in a world championship. Lindsay, very, very good. So Jamie coming in now with yellow from distance. Now quite a big space to get into between black and the hoop. And this is where we begin to find out about the character of these two players. I've seen Jamie play a little bit, but not actually had Jamie as an opponent. So I've not yet studied her game. Lou's I know a little bit better, and she's certainly going to be difficult to beat today because she never gives up. But what we're going to find out now is whether Jamie will think about the possibility of just going tight to the hoop and keep on the pressure of being trying to be as close to the hoop as possible, or whether she would turn around and try and clear the black.
She's going to go close to the hoop.
She is, yeah.
Well, black's quite a distance away. Oh, that is lovely.
Yeah, so I think what we can see there is that she's recognised that you don't just go close, but you look to leave yourself blocking blue's shot. So we know that blue's most likely to clear yellow here, I think. And of course, there is the possibility that she's going to shoot clear yellow past hoop 2, and then that means there is a wiring position
and
from
if
blue.
you can cut it slightly where her black ball's coming in towards the hoop, that would be ideal.
Yeah, no, it's very nice.
Somewhat like that.
Yeah, and I think yellow is probably now wired from blue. So what Jamie has done is to give herself the protection of red being between blue and the hoop. So that makes this position slightly less tricky. Did you get one over there? see it. Please score the hoop. Okay, right. Yes, they're presumably scoring over there. So yes, apologies. That was Chris Roberts, the referee, coming over and just pointing out that we not quite sure what options I've got on the computer in front of me, but we can confirm that at the moment the score is 1-2 red and 0-2 blue and black. So
that was a good clearance.
So Jamie now there going for the clearance, which slightly intrigues me because that wasn't a lot different to the clearance he had a couple of rotations ago, with yellow in a similar position. So if he had hit that black, his intention presumably would have been tried to run with yellow. But anyway, blue with the black blue. Good study in concentration there rather than much movement of either the mallet or her feet, which some players do. What sort of techniques are you adopting when you're standing over the ball about to play your shots, Lindsay?
Sometimes it depends if it's a hoop running shot or if I'm actually just playing a sort of a general shot down to a hoop, approaching a hoop. I do tend to stalk the ball and cast. And then I've got this whole sort of bit that goes through my head. It's like feet. I'm terrible for getting my feet all knotted up. And then I'll sort of say, yes, I feel comfortable. I'll look down, I'll go, okay, yeah. If I'm doing a jump shot, my feet are in perfect position, but I'm not. I'm just wanting to do a nice and front. It's just because I've got myself so into the zone of focusing on where I'm wanting to get to. But I've actually got to the stage now where once I've sort of got myself all lined up and my head's down, I count to 3.
Right.
And during that counting, I try and relax my shoulders. I've got a terrible habit of tensing my shoulders. Sometimes it can actually be seen, and Andrew will say to me, he says, yeah, you were quite tense there, because you'll literally see a couple of centimetres drop.
And Lou coming in with the black. She put her blue pretty deep, which was presumably because of where yellow was. She didn't want to make the clearance of yellow onto blue an easy one. And then Jamie won't be very happy with that red. It's pretty short from getting across. But yeah, this is obviously the early hoops of the first game. I mean, what do you find, Lindsay, in terms of picking up the pace of a court when you start a game? You expect to do that quickly, or?
I always hope I'm going to. I think a lot of it comes down to a good warm-up as well, because that can really, sort of set the tone of how the courts actually play and the lawns are playing. Because even in the same place, they can play slightly differently.
Sure.
And so I've got a little sort of routine that I do for my warm-up, and then as I sort of go, you get used to it, you get into the swing of things. And there's times when you might hit a patch and you sort of go, yeah, that definitely wasn't hard enough for. It went faster last time. I must have hit a sort of slightly different part, but I think you get used to how much backswing you've got to put on and how much power. You're looking at the distance that you're trying to cover, and you're thinking back to how you always do it.
Yes.
And sort of that's sort of number one. On any sort of given day, that would be your sort of distance, and working it from there.
Sure.
This hoop's become a little bit of a.
Yeah. So Lou had a long range attempt there. I mean, again, she had a certain amount of freedom there because yellow wasn't a danger ball, so she took a slightly longer shot with black than perhaps she would normally look to do. now we see that she's got probably the need to clear the red here, and she certainly hit that hard enough that it would have gone off the court. I kind of felt she maybe topped that a little bit. Which again, maybe just early game nerves, perhaps not quite making enough of a clean contact. And with you, Lindsay, when you hit a ball, do you kind of almost the moment it leaves the mallet face, do you know whether it's going to be a good one? Or
sometimes I do. If I know I haven't twisted my shoulder or the mallet itself as I've sort of swung through, I'm usually pretty confident. Usually it's just the fact that I can't aim. I'll go with that. But then there's times where my head's down because I make a point of not lifting my head too quickly, because that makes me keep the head down. And it's a case of there's times where, you know, I can hear the ball's gone through the hoop, and okay, I've gone through the hoop, that's fine.
Yep.
Or there we go, I've had the click of the ball's hitting. That I think everyone seems to do it slightly differently.
Yeah.
There are players that immediately as they swing through, they lift up.
Yeah.
Their heads up, and it's just part of the whole motion, and it's all done as one.
Yeah. Yeah, I always feel that personally, I feel a little bit cheated that I don't have more musical sense, because I do wonder whether potentially that's something that players benefit from if they have a good sense of rhythm. I think, you know, I've been wondering about one or two things I've been looking at so far in this tournament and thinking, you know, maybe a particular player is perhaps not quite in their normal rhythm, and you know, clearly today it looks as though actually we're going to get away with the weather. At one stage today looked as though it was going to be awful,
miserable.
Yeah. The wind has picked up a bit. It was actually dead still when we arrived this morning, which, as you say, led to some of the dew on the courts. But I think, with me, wind, clearly rain is pretty unpleasant to play in.
Wind, I think, is worse than rain. I mean, I play in shorts for the sole reason I don't like wet trousers.
Yeah.
I can dry my legs off. It's a lot easier than drying the trousers off.
Oh, no, we've just seen a really spectacular clearance from Jamie. Jamie is a very, very, talking about sort of style and hitting the ball. Jamie is definitely not a player that's over hitting it, but she is definitely very, very smooth, and that's.
And she looks relaxed while she's hitting it. Look, you know, sort of, which is always, you know, an added bonus if you can be nice and relaxed while you're playing. And you know, she's showing this already, even though we're early in the match. Yeah. She's nice and relaxed.
And it's certainly, you know, a really good lesson to us all to see that smoothness and relaxed, because she cleared Lou with the black ball all the way to the boundary. So it, you know, it wasn't a weak shot, but it was definitely a smooth one. She didn't thrash at it, and she's now given herself this 3-yard hoop attempt. She has got black beside her, and that maybe has just played in her mind. And we have yellow now sitting on the wire. So Lou has got 2 balls in good position, but she is going to have to presumably decide whether what she wants to do is to try the jump. So it is of course blue to play next, and potentially, depending on whether a blue or black are the easier jump, she might decide, for instance, to clear the red and then jump with black.
And if she, using the blue, clears red off to the boundary, there is that nice, you know, sort of, it makes sure she's wired.
Yeah.
Then that frees up the black for the jump, but we could all be wrong.
Well, so
there we go.
Blue's gone into. So what Lou's decided, I think, is that yellow's not going to run the hoop in one shot. So she's now put the blue somewhere which is potentially more is easier perhaps for Lou and her, what she would consider to be a jump shot that she would expect to make more times than she misses. And Jamie, conversely, is going to, in the first instance, clear the black. And again, certainly from our perspective, we're getting a front-on view of Jamie's action, and it's a very, very uncomplicated swing, that one, isn't it?
It's lovely. It's just so nice and smooth. It's like she's got total control the whole time. Couple of casts.
Yeah.
No, it's a lovely swing. I think that sometimes that happens in you know, it sounds terrible me saying sort of from experience, but from years of watching the sport as well, and watching, you know, top players play. Often you see new players to the sport and they think they've got to do what, you know, sort of players that have crafted over you know, 30, 40 years, how they're swinging and what they do and where their feet are and that sort of thing. And it's really finding, that's the beauty of croquet. It's so uncomplicated in the sense of, well, you can actually find what suits you.
Yeah.
And that is one of the beautiful parts of it.
Yeah. Yeah, what you've just made me think of there, it seems to me potentially the conclusion from what you've just said would be that we've almost all of us got to learn how not to disrupt, and that was an interesting attempt to try and get rid of yellow. We do not have a good view here. We cannot quite tell whether it's definitely come over the other side of the hoop, but Jamie's aiming up in a way that suggests...
I think it got sort of tipped further in towards the jaws.
Yeah, which is a little bit unlucky for Lou. She clearly was worried that yellow could run anyway from where it was. It felt to me as though that was, unless she was trying to do sneakily nudge blue behind.
I think either sneakily get blue behind, or if she did sort of rattle to the right hand side of yellow, she might have snuck herself in.
Yeah, that's an interesting technique that took me a few years to spot and learn, and there is a certain Lionel Tibble who managed to play that shot from quite a distance against me, and for the first 5 minutes I was cursing my luck, and when I calmed down a bit I realised that actually, you know, even from quite a long distance, if you understand that if the ball is on one wire and looking at hitting that other wire, as you say, you go in off the wire into the other ball, which then takes you back into the jaws, and often, of course, even just jawsing it is going to be strong enough.
We saw Jamie there clearing Louise's red.
Yeah, so that, of course, possibly because yellow has only dribbled through to a certain extent and has got a limited visibility.
Cleared it, and
she's got pretty close to hoop 5 there, and beginning to threaten that she will go for the aggressive option of clearing the black with red, and yellow is now the hoop running ball. So what will Lou choose to do here? She's come in. She probably looked as though she was trying to block red at black, but I think she's overhit that, and bit of a conversation there about Jamie bringing the mallet, bringing the ball in, and slight negativity of body language there from Lou, but she's not making a fuss about it, which is probably a good lesson, isn't it? It's the Sir Clive Woodward one about control the controllables. Yes.
And it's such a difficult one because there was enough space to do a full backswing, and it's really that sort of, you know, they're not getting a chance to stalk.
Yes. And
that's what you've actually, you know, you cut out. Yeah. And it is, you know, I mean, some players play like that and sort of say no. But in all honesty, until you ask that question, you don't know.
Yeah.
You know, unless you know the player really well, what they're going to say.
Yeah.
You know, it could be a yes, could be a no.
Yeah. Yeah, the rules are essentially precise on the matter. It is about having, as you say, the backswing space, as well as having your feet allowed to be level. And yeah, there are various conventions in the world. In Egypt, it's kind of pretty much the default that the ball comes back on at a certain distance, and in some ways you could argue that sort of avoids the argument. If it's the same on all courts, on all boundaries, then everybody knows it and sees it. But strictly speaking, the rules
bring it in, because
you
used to bring it in one of the older versions of golf croquet. You brought it in a mallet head and put it on.
Okay.
And I mean that coming back into it again would actually sort of almost negate that.
Yeah.
But I mean, you do have the thing where there's different mallet head sizes.
Yeah.
And I think that's where but nobody ever really. It's the same. I mean, you get different mallet lengths, but everyone knows when you bring it on in an association, you're doing it down. But I think sort of it shouldn't be too much. But I mean, Jamie doesn't seem to have let not being able to bring the ball in actually affect her. She's played her first shot. She's got a nicely placed yellow. Granted, blue is runnable.
Yeah, of course, one of the decisions that Lou made there was that the yellow is a little bit hanging back. So Lou, rather than trying to run hoop 5, she decided to go more for the jaws, and that's possibly because she's judged the sorts of distances that she thinks that Jamie can jump over. But of course, black's also in a useful position in terms of potentially
getting in the way between.
Well, I was wondering whether she, if you were playing, some of the stronger players, the physically stronger players, you might expect them to be able to make that jump shot with yellow, and then you get into a whole discussion about what how far out of the hoop is blue, because potentially this yellow, if it catches the blue correctly, there is probably space for blue to
go through first.
Yeah. And then
and if where is it on the upright? We're not sort of not dead onto it.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Gives you the chance of actually getting the upright and then moving it out the way.
So what are we seeing here? We're seeing and we've got some feet coming forward. So I wonder whether this is Jamie playing the style of jump shot where you don't have to. Yeah, we've got a very angled mallet there. So feet are a bit forward, and because of the sort of power of that swing, in principle, that wheel jump, she didn't really get it to leave the ground as much as she wanted, and she has peeled blue. But of course, as we know, if we read the new book from Ian Burridge on golf croquet for tournament players, that essentially is largely would be considered as a bit of a free shot, because Lou always had the opportunity to play that blue down to the next hoop, because she was playing through an odd numbered hoop down to the next hoop, which hoop 6 in this case. So to a certain extent, the fact that Jamie peeled Lou was not as much of a penalty as if you tried to do the same thing at an even numbered hoop.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it would be worthwhile, sort of considering that I'm not the greatest of jumpers, and I would probably have just wanted to try and luck and just be in the way, sort of give my opponent that hampered shot to go through. But of course, I've seen Jamie jump so far in this tournament, and she's jumped the ball beautifully. Whereas I would not be able to back myself on jumping. It's that's the one thing I've still got to definitely sort of practice and sort of get it into my arsenal.
Yeah, and it's I was thinking about that earlier, and the sort of previous circumstance moved on a bit, so I didn't get round to raising it. But I've heard some interesting stories about different scenarios around players who could or couldn't jump, and the sort of effect it had on how their opponent played, how they played, and actually looking at the Egyptians are interesting, because they generally have had less of a tradition of jumping, and So some of their players that you would generally consider to be very good, their jump shot can often be a bit weaker than you would expect. Now there's a little bit of an opportunity here again, always a question of what angle we can see, but do we think that maybe yellow's a little bit hiding the black from red on this shot? Jamie's looking pretty confident about it.
I don't think so.
So Jamie here now with the opportunity to clear black at a distance, and then yellow's the one that's left in front of the hoop. And of course if Jamie misses, I think we would expect to see Lou take on the hoop.
And that was
beautifully done.
Beautifully hit.
There's a real rhythm and tempo to Jamie's swing at the moment, and I think if she can keep that going for the next few days, I expect that she will easily live up to her eighth seeding position.
Yes.
And so Lou, not with a massive clearance. I mean, Jamie is definitely not hitting the ball as hard as we would expect some of the male players to hit the ball. So Lou there with a 5-yarder, and she's done the primary job of moving yellow, but not kept her own position.
Yeah, it's as you're saying, when you see some of the, I think when I played down at Ramsgate, and I sort of go, yes, I cleared that, 8, maybe 10 yards, and then so my opponent comes on and just sort of smashing each other's hard at the lawn. I'm like, oh, okay, clear me there, will you? That is probably, I think, the biggest difference sort of that I've picked up playing in this and then playing in sort of general golf croquet tournaments.
Right.
It is actually the powerfulness of a lot of the male players. There are some that play very, sort of gentle shots and that sort of thing, and almost, and I don't want to say that somebody that's hitting the ball really hard and clearing is not in control, but it almost, they've got a better chance that they're doing this really sort of long, hard clearance. Your AC players that play a lot of golf croquet are really good, good at doing the clearing and that sort of thing. But this is where I'm finding I keep on having to remind myself. And I was playing my match this morning, the second game, and I kept on going, oh, come on, Lindsay. You don't have to clear up hard. You just need to make sure you get the ball going where you want it to go.
Yeah.
And that I'm finding is slightly different playing in the women's championships as opposed to playing sort of with everyone, which is great, sort of when you're playing in the normal,
sure,
sort of CA tournaments and that sort of England croquet tournaments, because they're always good fun. But it is, even at club level, I play at Dulwich, and if I play against Pierre or Guy or Johnny, it's a totally sort of different way of actually having to think about playing.
Yeah.
Because if you get cleared, you are getting cleared for miles.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So now we've got yellow at hoop 6, and that gives Jamie a 4-2 lead. So again, at the risk of gross advertising, again Ian Burridge talks about score lines in his book, and he would say that a lead of 2 hoops at this stage is not, it's difficult to say that Jamie is ahead, and I subscribe to that one. When I'm in this position, I'm now thinking, well, I've had first approach to 7, and if I run 7 well, I'll be down in front of 8, and that will give the score back level at 4 all. So again, I subscribe to that theory myself.
Absolutely. Now, ideally, you would want to. I would have tried to move red a bit, just to give me that sort of run at the hoop. I think it's a bit of a hampered hoop.
Yeah. So she's kind of fallen short of anything definitive there, so she's not quite covered the blue, and as you say, red has still got a shot at the hoop, so Jamie will be looking to clear the blue. Of course, it is only to the short boundary, and black was good enough. possibly, if black hadn't been there, we might have seen the left-hand side of blue
But again,
struck.
I think there's definitely again difficult with the angles.
Yeah. So we've kind of almost got a situation here that's very similar to the one we had at Hoop 1, where Lou committed the fault. Has she got enough space to get her mallet past the red? I know, in fact, I was discussing this with a player earlier, that we need to remember that none of us have perfectly straight swings, and there is always the danger that in the follow-through, the back of the mallet goes one way or the other. I think she's got enough
She's
space.
a bit more clear than she was at Hoop 1.
Yeah. Through the hoop, and that means she is now 3-4 down. Of course, what she's not done is to make any significant distance through the hoop, but I think again we might just say that is it close enough? She's now testing. She's made a decision. I'm not sure I know exactly what it was, but she will now know, by having taken that look, she will know whether her mallet head will reach through
or not. And then of course it depends, is it lovely and nice straight through the hoop, or is it slightly angled?
That is of course
that
important.
we'll find out in due course.
Yeah. So the good news for Lou is that the red is a little bit short, and that gives Lou the space to come in. She probably wanted to go another couple of yards there. She's not managed to cover the hoop. Red's shot at the hoop. And the only good news for Lou there is that yellow is no better than red. So Lou's decided that she can't reach. Yep, and she's going to play out to the side. Again, I think it was a fairly obvious choice there, because blue, as you say, Lindsay, was slightly non-central. Yep. So I think she had access to more of the blue from the right-hand side. And of course, the other thing is that is going more towards hoop 10. So sorry, 9. So if Jamie was to run hoop 8 with either the red or the yellow, blue has got a slightly shorter shot across to 9. So again, a very calm clearance there from Jamie. Just hitting it hard enough.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what you've got to do. I think that's the other sort of thing that, when you see some of the powerful hitters, it's not falling into that trap that's what you need to do. If you get a good clearance, if you get a good angle on it, that's all that's needed.
Yeah.
Which I think has brought the game back to almost being more tactical, because at one point golf croquet very much was, hit the ball hard, hit it away from the hoop, and I think we seem to have come back to the tactics again, where you just need to clear it, you just need to make sure that they have got a more difficult shot.
Sure.
Obviously some players that a clearance sort of to there's some players, and the Egyptian ladies would contemplate running the hoop, sort of that distance. Obviously they can't because it's on the opposite side, but you're looking at some of them that will actually run hoops from the boundary.
Yeah.
So it's just making sure that they've got a very angled hoop from the boundary and that sort of thing. So it's ball placement that comes into it as well. So as opposed to hit and hope.
Yeah. So we've got Lou looking just to make sure.
She's checking is red going to run.
Right.
I think yellow.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about the yellow.
I'm not sure if yellow's actually sort of next to the closer to the upright than we actually think.
Yeah, it will have been a bit of an error on Jamie's part if she had, if she's not left yellow with the hoop shot, because yellow was not a long way away from the hoop.
No. But then it's a case of if red's runnable, if yellow isn't in an ideal position, yellow can clear black.
Yeah.
So it's all coming down to sort of where these blue balls are going to end up. Will probably tell us all.
Lou's been thinking
there
about
we
this
go.
carefully, and
Okay, so it must be runnable because we went for the yellow clearance.
yeah, which was kind of an interesting choice. I kind of feel that I would, if I'm going to go for the big shots, do I not want to go for the red because pretty similar chances, and you know, the danger from the red is the possible run, although it is angled, or obviously what is now going to happen is this clearance. But it was again the sort of possibility that if I'd cleared the red, then black was in hoop running position.
Yeah. Although again with the angle we don't know it was black behind yellow, and so
Yeah.
that was the reasoning for it.
Yeah, and it is as I think I mentioned a few minutes ago. It's one of the interesting challenges of watching. Certainly, Golf Croquet Association, I'm sure occasionally, but certainly a lot of times in golf croquet, you know, often half the ball's difference in position can really change the situation, and depending on where you're sitting, you may or may not see whether that is the case or not. So nicely with yellow, and that is giving Jamie now a 5-3 lead. So again, if we go back to my previous conversation, 4-2 has become 5-3. But
which is still not out of it, because
exactly.
you know, you've got first approach to the hoop, and the approach is a little bit short by the looks of it.
It's not A1 position, is it?
No.
And again, probably I think Mr. Burridge would tell us that we would want to be beyond the hoop there if we're going to be wrong.
Yes, because then you've got the weight for your next ball.
Yeah.
So if you're beyond the hoop, coming in with your second ball, you should have a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
But I've seen players do exactly what Louise has done. Their first ball's a bit short, and they seem to be more comfortable in playing the heavier second ball.
Yeah. Interesting. So Jamie looks as though she is going big with this one, and I guess she does understand that possibly with black being so good, and blue I would have thought would have a good snuggling opportunity against red. So difficult to know. That almost looked as though it missed blue rather than black, but clearly clearing either of them would have been.
I mean, again, blue could actually be in a nice, you know, it doesn't even.
I think I'm fancying Lou now to. Oh, there you are. I was wondering whether she was contemplating the snuggle there, because if she gets that right, then it rules out a lot of options for what Jamie could do. But you're sort of you're right there, Lindsay, that she was closer to the hoop than we thought, and again with where red and yellow are, Jaws has got to be pretty good.
Jaws is a good outcome. It's also again difficult to see, but if it's lovely in the middle of it, with black still having to play and yellow being off at the boundary, there's still that chance that blue could clear and clear well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. Blue looks as though it's not settled firmly in the jaws, and therefore yellow has a bit of a sight of that, doesn't it? But of course, again, this is where all of us, when we're playing, need to know not to panic, to understand that Lou still has the upper hand. She does have the opportunity to bring black into a good position. Red is relatively strong, so black can't just take a trivial position, because red will just clear it really easily. So yeah, choices, I think, at this point.
And it's so you want to make sure you've got something you can do, because yellow could come into clear blue and knock itself out of the running as well.
Yes.
we all want to think we're going to clear blue and get beautifully onto hoop position, which often doesn't happen.
So we now have the slight, certainly from Lou's perspective, the slightly unfortunate situation that we now also have an advertising hoarding that's adding to the backswing interference. There is, of course, this interesting aspect of the rules where the distance there that Jamie's hitting, we know, is almost exactly 7 yards, and she's done it perfectly. She's not lost position too badly either, has she, with the yellow?
No. So blue's going to come back in, and then of course red can take care of black. It looks like this could be a bit of a fight, this hoop.
Absolutely. It's always that thing about blinking first, isn't it? I mean, you were talking yourself, Lindsay, earlier about 7-yard hoops, and does one take that first opportunity? I mean, the one that I've probably spent most time, perhaps not literally drinking pints in the pub discussing, but certainly had many a conversation with croquet players, is around hoop 13 and whether one takes one's first opportunity, even if it's from the boundary.
And it's such a hard one. I think hoop 30, I'd be tempted to go, but knowing me, I would probably underhit it just to try and snuggle in. So not so much playing mind games or anything like that, because I'm not sort of how I play out. I mean, I cast all the shots that I do, but I think I would keep on getting that quiver of doubt if I would make it, and I think I would probably try and just get myself in the way enough that I'm leaving them with a pressure shot, because I mean, coming in from the boundary, there's not a lot of players that do that and run hoops, or even there's very few that do it consistently and run the hoops. That I think I would probably snuggle in, get in the way, and just be a nuisance.
Lovely return clearance there from Jamie. What that does make me think of is some of the work that again calling out Ian Burridge, and then also we've got Lionel Tibble's been leading a lot of performance development in the GC community over recent years, and Rachel G, of course, who is actually playing here, and one of the things that they between them have potentially encouraged players to think about a bit more is their percentages. And in principle, I guess they might suggest that a player ought to know their exact percentage at 7 yards. Now, there are, of course, always going to be various factors. Perhaps today we would say the wind and the slightly grotty feeling to the weather. But of course, also you have that other factor that at hoop 13, you know what the prize is. That's a beautifully interesting shot there from Lou.
That's it. And I mean, you might often you know your opponent, how well they do under pressure. And knowing if they've had a couple of wobbles at running hoops, just or their jump shot hasn't been coming off very well. Sometimes you just play that percentage. It is a difficult one. It's the same. Sometimes you see people don't particularly want to, sort of make hoop 5 or 6 because it's on the turn. They'd rather go for 1, 2, 3, 4, and that sort of thing.
So we've now almost got a sort of full rotation of position here with Lou shooting from a very similar position from the one that Jamie shot from. Red on this occasion is further out of the hoop, so presumably Lou or Jamie when she had the same shot probably couldn't really see one half or one side of the ball, but Lou can see both sides of red, so in the first instance any contact, but of course she'll want to not go too far with blue, and that's good, isn't it?
That's good. Of course, with the distance she's got from blue there, from the hoop, and that it gives her that chance to actually clear again if it's necessary.
Yeah, exactly. However, Jamie looks confident here. I'm kind of guessing that this is more for the jaws, but she's going to give it a good smooth whack here, I think, and is probably looking for that smoothness to take the ball through, and then that would give her a 6-3 lead.
It would.
Good effort. She made the right error there. She
Yes.
didn't hit the near wire, and just didn't quite get inside the far wire enough to go through in that smooth way that one sees when that shot is hit well. So the battle continues for hoop 9, and this is, this is the crunch end of the game, isn't it? And as we said before, if Lou can get a good hoop here and take control at 10 with that shot, then we're back to 5-all, and we're going to have some excitement down the middle. So again, interesting choice there of deciding to go for the deep yellow. So red has of course failed to a position where it can't run the hoop, so that means that Lou doesn't have to worry about that.
And I'm not sure if it's wired or not from black.
That's a good question. We can't quite tell, can we? But Jamie certainly decided that blue from Lou is good enough that it needs to be cleared.
The rain comes down
It
again.
does, yes. I had thought that we were going to be
Blowing to us from right to left, and you can actually see it moving. It looks particularly dismal.
Yes. Are we sad that we're sitting in the relative dry? I think probably not. So,
No, probably not.
This angled hoop we can see very well from our commentary position, and it's probably a similar angle to the one that Jamie had, but I imagine with Lou she'll be very happy to jaws it. I think we do have a little bit of a contrast there in smoothness of swings, and I think because Lou is playing standard grip with her hands quite far apart, I kind of feel that her anxiety on that shot probably pushed through the bottom hand.
Possibly.
and that meant the swing wasn't smooth. However, even if you've got a smooth swing, you
It's
can
almost
miss.
like nobody wants that hoop.
Indeed.
I'll take it, I'll bank it. I'll bank it for later. Back to the drawing board.
Lou, unfortunately,
Bit short.
just a bit short. So, Jamie, can we
Red.
see
Red good.
one of these two ladies taking perhaps the decisive grip of this first game? So we're still, of course, in the block stage here. So
Everything to play for.
absolutely,
This is only, sort of a lot of people, it might be their third game
yeah,
in the blocks of 7. So
yeah, lovely,
lovely hoop, and it's run down
brilliant weight.
beautifully.
Yeah. I mean, clearly, the distance that Jamie was out of that hoop, given the way in which the ball interacts with the wire, to be 5 yards or less, in fact,
Backed away.
from hoop 10 with that shot is an absolute perfect result. And black has gone in. It's definitely better than red, but this is now giving Jamie the freedom for her yellow. If she can make this really good, we know all that red is going to do is to clear the black.
That looks pretty good. And that's the joy of a nice, powerful hoop run.
Yes.
That it gives you that extra freedom.
Yeah, and of course what Jamie's demonstrating here is what Lou was going to have been dreaming about, which is doing the same in reverse, and,
Yes.
and she would have been looking to bring the score back to 5-all. But instead, this is now the opportunity for Jamie to... I'm kind of intrigued the direction she's aiming here. Is she going big and bold and deciding that she wants the hoop to settle it straight away rather than going around the houses and clearing black followed by yellow running? there we are.
That
was it.
Lovely hoop. That was as smooth as silk.
Absolutely. So, 1-0 to Jamie, who is slightly confused by Lou being distracted by something off the court, but that indeed was the end of the first game. 7-3 to Jamie Gumbrell from Australia. And we now go through the normal routine of the players collecting the scoring clips. We do have scoreboards with us this week, but we will generally not be using those at this stage of the event. Later on, we look forward to being able to use those to help the spectators grasp the score more quickly. Occasionally some of these clips are less easy to identify the colours of it as one would expect or hope for, so they can often be a little bit of a challenge for anybody on the side to understand the score. Of course, it's important for the players to be clear in their own mind as to what the score is. There are some stories of legend of players managing to, in fact, to leave the court and believe both of them had won the game. Is one very famous occasion. I'm not going to name names at this stage, and at some point a stream, I think, is being stopped, and I may be talking to a black hole, or I may be rambling at the beginning of the next session, and some of you who decided to set up an alarm on the third session are catching me rambling through a story. Okay, so apparently I need to tell you we will be back on YouTube at Croquet England in a couple of minutes. That's goodbye for us for the moment.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Just like Tim said, we'll be back in 2 minutes, just as soon as I've turned off this session, and I'll turn on session 3 of the day. See you shortly.